Office Center Building, second floor, 301 Main. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting is being conducted in person via remote means in accordance with applicable law. This means that the members of the public body, as well as the members of the public, may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. Any and all members of the public may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. The meeting may also be accessed remotely via the town's on-demand video web broadcast on television on channel 191, or dial into the meeting at 774-304-1455, enter 1428 pound for the meeting number and 12345 for the access code. Specific information on the general guidelines for remote participation can be found on the town's website. All right, for attendance,
Eric Gaspar.
Roy Bishop, present.
David?
David Barnacle, present.
And Ed Goodwin present, so we have 4. And I guess we're going to move to Raul?
Nope, we're gonna do a request for certificate of compliance. We have Paul DeLeo on here.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Number 20 on the agenda.
Yep.
So this, right, it's a request for certificate of compliance for DP file number 300-1029. This was a commercial site in the industrial park for the DeLeo gas building. Permit was issued a few years back. We started looking at it last fall. Had a couple requests to make some revisions to a little bit of grading within some of the drainage structures. They took care of that, seeded it, everything's stabilized. Went out, did a site visit. It appears that they've met all our conditions. I have no concerns at this time. Because it does have stormwater management, it's a commercial site, they do have perpetual conditions for their stormwater, which are special conditions 61 through 67. I would recommend issuance of the complete certificate of compliance with those ongoing conditions. And Paul, I don't know if there's anything that you want to add, or you have any questions or anything?
No, we've been maintaining the stormwater system. We have an O&M plan in place and have been doing frequent visits there. I'm almost there at least once a week, just kind of looking over the site. And I think everything is in good standing, nice and stabilized. So we will keep an eye on everything over there and could continue to maintain it and service it.
Okay, great.
All right.
Board?
Board, anybody have any questions?
No questions?
David?
I have no questions, thank
All
you.
right. All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
David Barnacle in favor.
And Ed Goodwin in favor. All right.
All right, thanks, Paul, you're all set.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
So, now Raul?
Yep. So we also have, under old business, we have the Mass DOT enforcement order. This is the I-90 drainage improvement projects. Raul's here on behalf of Cedar Lake Association to give an update of where things stand out there.
Okay. Raul Ricard, 7 Meredith Way in Fistale.
Brian Freeland, 26 Birch Street, and President of Cedar Lake Association.
Okay. So I wanted to give you, I know we only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to use 3 minutes to update you, and then I've got a long 2-minute presentation to make at the end of that, just so we stay within our time frame. First thing is, I'm happy to report that all of the construction phases of this 4-year project have been completed by MassDOT as per their specs that they gave us. I don't know, we've had so many different specs over the years, but all of the work has been completed, the last of which was the detention ponds being cleaned out and new pipes being put in there. That was done in the spring. And they actually have completed a couple of punch list items that Becky and I gave them just recently. They still have a few silt fences and other things to pull out, which they want to do. And where we are right now is Becky has asked MassDOT to resend out the BCS group, which is Peter Reed, who's the original engineer on the project, to make sure that it has met all the engineering standards and all the piecework of work that they've done over those 4 years. And I've insisted, and Becky has as well, to them that they at least commit to 2 years' worth of annual review of the area so that it doesn't deteriorate quickly over the next couple of years in different areas, which I think is more than fair to ask for them to schedule to come out and look at it. They're supposed to look at it every year, but that doesn't happen. So we're prepared from the Cedar Lake Association to give the commission the authority to, or our approval to sign off on the enforcement order, assuming those couple of things get done, the meeting with BCS and their commitment to follow up on the site and maintenance the site on a regular basis. So, and I know that one thing we always like to hear, and Brian's going to give you a little bit of an update on the lake itself and what we're hearing in reports coming from there as well, Brian?
Yeah, we've had, we work with Solitude, who does some treatment on the lake, and we've had tremendous results so far. We're all very happy with the water quality we're seeing. We're tested frequently, and they all come back with very, very, positive results. So we're extremely happy with how things are going, especially with this crazy weather we're having. You're apt to get all kinds of results all over the place, but again, extremely happy with how things have gone and how things are going.
And one important note I just wanted to add to it, I walked the site this morning, and I walked all the way up to the top of the 2,000-foot swale. And what was really interesting is inside the rocks of those swales is a pretty good amount of new sediment, sand and rocks, and a lot of the millings from the recent scarring of the turnpike to repave it. But the good news is it stopped probably 100 feet down in that stone and didn't keep going down. In the past, that big swale would have washed that all right into Cedar Lake. So it's at least stopping some of that silt and dirt coming into the lake, and I think that's why you're starting to see better improvement in the quality, which is what we all went after this for to begin with, is to make sure that that water quality was there. So it's interesting to see how it's evolved over those years.
Good.
Okay.
A better word than interesting.
Yes, much better. But it was, today was the first time I saw that silt, because they just milled that section, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago when they resurfaced the pike. And a lot, you could see what flowed down even through those new drains down into that rock area. So it's quite eye-opening that stopped at least there and didn't go any further way down. So it's good news.
Good.
Okay. The last thing is a presentation that I wanted to make, but I just want to make sure there's no questions from you guys as far as the project. I know we've met numerous times, and or anything else you wanted to add, Becky?
Is in order. You've really spent a lot of time on it, and we really appreciate it.
No, it's no problem. No problem.
The only thing I guess I would add is, right, we did ask BSC Group, we pretty much want like a letter of substantial compliance from them, like we would get at the end of a permit, but since this was done through an enforcement order, so we want them to go out, take a look at that, develop the O&M plan for DOT, tell them what they need to do for the maintenance, and right, get the commitment for the maintenance from them. We have been working with quite a few people out here, which is probably part of the problem why we're not getting responses sometimes, but we did have our maintenance contact did get in touch with us. They've been out there. Our last contact overseeing the project is not on this project anymore, and the other person's been on vacation. So we're waiting for them to get back. It's my understanding that BSC Group has been asked to start this, and I'm waiting to hear back from the person who's on vacation to get a commitment on that. So I'll keep you posted on that.
Fantastic.
Okay. The last presentation I wanted to make is I wanted to make a presentation to personally, on behalf of Cedar Lake Association, thank Becky for her outstanding work on this. I think this was literally her second or third project that she started on when she joined as the Conservation Committee. And I have to say, she's been a pleasure to work with, a trooper. And you don't want to find out about bad Becky when she gets upset about things, that's for sure, because she can push the buttons when she has to, and she certainly has helped us do that throughout the project. So with that, we'd like to present this to Becky.
Paul make that?
He did.
Yes.
Oh,
Handcrafted by Paul Gerard. Presented to Rebecca Gendro, expressing our sincere appreciation and gratitude for your contributions to Cedar Lake. From all of the residents on Cedar Lake,
Thank
our
you.
appreciations are there. If I can approach the board.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh,
Well
thank
deserved.
you. Thank you. We don't get a lot of things a lot of times, so thank you so much. Oh. Thanks, Brian. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I
My
have a
meeting's
question.
over. Adjourned.
Mr. Barnacle?
Becky, do you think that it would be appropriate for us to not
some
issue,
volume.
to cancel the enforcement order for 1 year so that we have at least 1 year's worth of proof that the system is working? I agree with Raul. It's been 4 years in order to get it to the condition that it's in now, but it would be devastating if we release it now and a year from now, we see that some of the structures are just not set up to be able to handle the problem.
I had a hard time. I'm sorry, your volume's down now, Dave. I had a hard time hearing that, but right, I think we don't want to close or pause or delay, like do anything with the enforcement order until at least we get that letter of substantial compliance and a little bit about the O&M stuff. So I think we just kind of leave it status quo.
Yeah. As far as we're concerned, it's in your hands at this point, Rebecca, to
Yeah.
release it when you're comfortable. If you want to hold it out there for 40 more years, that's up to you, which I think is Dave's point. Dave will still be here to enforce it 40 years from now, I'm sure, so. But
That's
we're
a scary
comfortable
thought.
that they've met what they said they were going to do
Yeah,
to repair the area.
yeah.
Now it's the follow-through and the go-forward kind of action, okay?
Great. We always have Brian to fall back on.
Absolutely. Brian will follow up with Becky religiously, I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Gentlemen, really, Raul, thank
Oh, well, I
you.
hope you got one too.
Special presentation earlier, yes. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
All right, from there, Becky, would,
Nice.
Mr. Chairman, you want me to read the opening statement?
yep, go ahead.
All right. In the interest of saving time, the Sturbridge Conservation Commission will hold all public hearings tonight for work within a wetland, water body, or resource area and/or within the 200-foot buffer zone to a wetland, water body, or resource area in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, MGL, Chapter 131, Section 40, and associated regulations, and the Town of Sturbridge Wetland Bylaws and associated regulations. We will not be reading the newspaper ad. Prior to the opening of the first hearing for each project, the applicant is to submit proof of notification to butters within 200 feet of the subject property line and proof of legal newspaper advertisement. If these items are not submitted, the public hearing will not open. Additionally, prior to the start of each public hearing, we will announce the location of the project, the applicant, and the applicant's representative. If any of the visitors have not legibly signed in yet, please do. Also, if any visitors are recording this meeting, please let us know. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're on 1 South.
Yep.
All right, 1 South Paradise. Becky, you want to start it off?
Yep, so this is a request for determination of applicability. We have the property owner here. Do you want to state your name and address for the record?
Rob Scoble, 1 South Paradise Lane, Fiskdale, Massachusetts.
So Rob's here, for his property. He had contacted me. He's looking at doing some landscape improvements within an existing developed yard. He does have, he's on the lake, so he's got the lakeside, and on the side of his property is what's shown as a perennial stream. All the work is, like I said, it's within an existing developed yard. He has existing walls and steps that are like old railroad ties that have rotten. He'd like to have those replaced. He's contacted a contractor. I did provide you with some photos, the description of the work detail. They do have to have some equipment out there. They are proposing erosion controls in between the work area. There's a lower driveway that's a flat area where they can do most of the work and site and put the dumpster and have erosion controls. I think just a straw wattle is sufficient on the other side. It's about 3 to 5 days worth of work. The timbers will be directly loaded into the dumpster. They need to use a mini excavator. The plantings that might need to come out are within his landscaped garden beds. So they're just landscaping plantings that in there, some shrubs and lower herbaceous things. I would recommend for this, I think that we can work towards approval through a determination of applicability. It would be a negative number 3 with conditions. It would just be our standard pre-work and sign-off conditions. We usually meet a contractor, we'll go over the project quickly with them, and then sign off at the end of it, and then to include the straw wattle between the work area and the bordering vegetated wetland associated with the perennial stream. The house is between the work area and the lake, so there's no need for erosion controls on that side. And I didn't pull anything up, but I do have the photographs that were included in the detailed agenda, as well as the sketch, et cetera, if you want me to show that, if you need it. I would also be a positive 2B, no resource area approval, and a positive 5 with the conditions noted above.
Yeah, that's all right. Did I miss anybody yet?
Right. Any comments, questions? Eric?
Questions?
I don't, David? Any
David, do you have
questions?
any questions?
No question from Barnacle.
All right.
Does the applicant have anything? Anything you want to add, Rob? Pretty much.
No, it's, we're just replacing what's already there.
Have a motion?
Do we have to go to the public?
Yep. You're right. Does anybody online or in the public like to speak on this issue?
On the phone line that would like to speak on the 1 South Paradise Lane request for determination of applicability?
Hearing none, motion to close the public hearing.
Yep. That's what I said. Go ahead now, would you make that motion?
No, that's what I was, yes.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Eric Gaspar
David
in favor.
Barnacle in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
And Ed Goodwin in favor.
Like to make a motion that we issue a DOA with a negative number 3, with the standard pre-work conditions and straw wattles installed between the work and the bordering vegetated wetland, a positive 2B with no resource area approval, and a positive 5 with conditions noted above for the property located at 1 South Paradise Lane.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thank you.
You're all set? Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much.
We'll contact you when the determination's ready and get that over to you, okay?
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
How'd we get ahead of schedule this early?
If
We're
you
at,
will.
yeah. We're at 16 Mount Dan Road.
Or ahead, so forth.
NOI to raise and rebuild a lakefront home, DEP file number 300-1135.
Mr. Chairman, I think we're like 3 minutes ahead. Is
Yeah.
there something?
Yeah, we can stick something in real quick.
I don't know what to do. We've never been ahead before.
I know, that's why I'm so early.
Yeah, we have.
I was gonna make a motion to approve the minutes from
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
15th.
Second?
second
Any
the July
discussion on the
15th.
minutes?
Whoa, that's number 22.
David, anything? Seeing none?
No, sir.
All in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Good. What was it, number 22?
That was 22.
All right, we're gonna go back up a little bit here to my notes.
All right, where do you want to go now, Beck?
We're gonna go to number 14.
All right,
This is National Grid easements along Lead Mine Lane. This is a request for a certificate of compliance, file number 300-1025. Applicant was Mass Electric Company. This was an order that was issued for a pole replacement project along Lead Mine Road, which is a private road on Lead Mine Lake. They had to do some tree removal, limbing, to install the new poles. It was all within easements for all the private properties out there. I went out and did a site visit. I worked with them throughout the project when they were doing the installation. I have no concerns. Work was done in compliance with the plans. Recommend issuing a complete certificate of compliance, and there was no perpetual conditions for this permit.
all right. Hearing that, do you want to hear from the public?
Well, it's not a public hearing.
Not a public
This
hearing,
one's not a
just-
public hearing. These are just the decisions.
Oh, okay.
Motion to approve the certificate of compliance for DEP EP number 300-1025.
I'll second that.
Second that. Any discussion, David?
No discussion, sir.
Seeing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle, in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. All right. So we covered the 3 minutes?
Yep.
All right, 16 Mount Dan Road, NOI raise and rebuild of a lakefront home, DEP file number 300-1135.
I'm just gonna share this for the, if your sisters are on there, so.
Yeah, they're both up there.
And the mic's right there. Okay.
Oh, the paper copies, thank you.
Thank you, Lenny.
Is this mic going all set?
Yep,
You're all
yep.
set.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to start out just going in from the beginning is that we got a tree warden, Tom Chamberlain, to do a report of the site. And in his report, what he comes up with is that there would be 14 trees removed and they're marked, and then there's 3 trees on the lake that would be removed too. The reason for it is because of the excavation for the house and the area where they are. He felt that they would be best to have the trees removed. I think you have the removal of the report in your reports,
Yep.
all of you. So I have extra copies if someone wants one.
Anybody need it? No.
No?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, what we have here is the site is located basically at 16 Mount Dan Road, but it's actually 2 pieces. It's this here where the house is going to be raised, and then a new house will be built here, and then across the street is...
I'm just gonna zoom in. Do you want me to just zoom in on the colored section, which is what has the existing and the proposed, or do you want to just show the existing right now?
No, that's
tell me.
fine. Just,
Okay.
then they own the land across the street, that's all. Okay, I will just stay within this area here. What they're doing is they're taking the house, basically, which is on this footprint here, which is the dash line, moving all the way up here, back down to here, and they're moving the building roughly 8 feet in a southerly direction from the northerly property line to stay further from the property over here and in here, and staying basically within the same footprint. What it is that the property itself started out with a coverage of 6.06%, and then it's now going to be 7.41 with the addition that there's a area in here that's going to be enclosed, which gives you access to Mount Dan Road. The area that was done is there was a road that was in here, which was the existing access to the site previously for the installation of the existing well. That was never improved. What we're going to do is put in a walkway along that area, and then we're going to take this thing here, loom and seed it and stabilize that area itself for the control for the site itself. The thing is, what we have here is that we have drainage on this side here. What we have done is we've put in check dams, 5 check dams along this area here, from this discharge of the pipe here to the lake itself, to catch the runoff for any siltation or anything, to clean out any discharge before it goes into the lake itself. The catch basin over here would be clean with a silt sock and hay bales around it for protection during construction. And then also the area in here will be stone in this area here, which would act as a track pad, and then a track pad would be installed here. And they're taking out the building and everything onto the road itself. They got two stairwells here that were going to go into the lake, which they would be a disturbance on the bank, 4 feet here and 4 feet there. That's under Chapter 91. A letter was sent to Chapter 91. We haven't heard anything from them yet. Therefore, we put this in your approval to be subject to the Chapter 91 letter, which I don't know what is going to be there. The work as far as the property line here along the bank area itself would be basically nothing. We're just taking out a few trees, which was recommended by Mr. Chamberlain, is here, and then along here, we're leaving it in a natural state. These areas which you see right here, basically just outcrops of boulders on the site, so we're not touching that. The area of planting and everything for improvements would be in this area here, along here, which would be coming in here with trees, and then along the site, which in your report by Tom Chamberlain, he gave you a sketch of the trees that would be replaced on the site itself. The building itself is going to be basically on grade here in the front, with access to the lower level, with basically no real change in grades in here, other than maybe in the front backfilling along the foundation in here. So the disturbance basically would be along this bank in here relative to the removal of the building itself. We've got also 4 abovite, which is over here on this side here, which were stated that were different than what Chamberlain had, which was on the site itself. The property is serviced by a private well and also town sewer. The access over here, which is where they have parking right now, which sits comfortably 3 cars, and what we have done is added a section over here and a section over here, more grading, with stone riprap on the sides and stone in here to allow for 5-car parking. There is one tree which is right here, which is not shown on this plan here, that would be removed. Wait just a second. It's a 24-inch oak, which is right here on this side here, would be removed because of excavation of the parking area itself. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Becky?
Okay. So just so the board's aware, after we had a site visit, we had a nice site visit out there, Ed, myself, and property owners and Lenny last week, and we did talk about some things that were in the detailed agenda, some recommendations with the swale going down there, adding the check dam. So he did submit a revised plan afterwards, including those on there and including the one tree we talked about by the parking that needed to come out. So that's not reflected on what's up here because we'd already done
You've
this at
got
that
the
time.
plans, the plans of your record.
Yeah, yep. So just kind of going through it, some of the stuff we already talked about on the site a little bit, but just, one thing was right, the Chapter 91, because it's work on the bank and this is a great pond, we asked them either, if you don't know if you have to file for a determination with them or file with them. So he started that process. That's something that can be conditioned in our permit as making sure that they have either a negative determination or a Chapter 91 license before they start work on that. That's something that DEP Waterways has been reaching out to conservation commissions and letting them know that these are things that need to be included, so we need to make sure those are being done in there. It is 8 feet of bank impact that's noted for the 2 sets of stairs. They do have 126 feet of bank on the property. So going back and looking at, and I put it in the detailed agenda, looking at the performance standards for bank, if it's something that's not gonna have a significant impact on the entrance, it is something that can be allowed, provided it's below the 10% threshold. So it is something that can be considered. One thing that, it wasn't clear, I was like, oh, why 2 sets? Why do you need 2? Looking at alternatives and kind of minimizing impacts. One would be where they have their seasonal dock set up. So it's already a disturbed area there, so it wouldn't really be a concern. The other area, there are some trees in that area.
This one right up here.
Yeah. So that is a previously kind of disturbed bank at the moment. And when they have their seasonal dock in there, they would be using them. So that was the reasoning for that. The other set, we did look at that when we were out there. It's adjacent to one of the maples, I believe,
The red X, you can see
This
that.
one right here.
Right, so that was reported as damaged from the arborist that looked at that. Otherwise, it doesn't look like any trees or a lot of vegetation would need to come out to put those stairs there. So if that is approved by the commission, that probably would be a good location because they're not removing a lot of vegetation in that area causing impact. So that is something that can be considered, like I said, provided that there's no significant impact there. It was increased to the 14 trees. I don't know if the plan, we just want to make sure the plan gets updated to show those 14 trees. We did talk about them a little bit when we were out there. A lot of them are healthy that would need to come out because of the house moving over there. So they're shifting it out of the property line, the setback here, and that's why we get this shift down here. And, it does move back a little bit this way, so we start to lose all these trees in this area. This whole side here, there are a lot of trees here. They do have a really nice, tree line here. It's, there's a lot of pictures I took out there that I put in the detailed agenda for you guys to look at. This isn't a, manicured yard. It's very naturalized, and it's my understanding they want to keep it that way.
Pretty much so, yeah.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to see, and I put it in the notes, and we talked about it there a little bit, is maybe doing like a detailed landscape restoration plan, like where the walkways, you talked about different plantings and maybe not having the lawn.
And that stuff be done, it's really hard for us because with the trees coming out and stuff. Is that something that we can do like next spring and submit it? Because it's really hard to know exactly what's going to look right there.
Some of it, they're going to want to talk about, restoration, trees now and kind of know an amount or approximate locations. But I guess what I'm looking at too is like, right, like is there going to be a walkway here to the dock? Is this going to be a lawn? Because we've got the erosion controls here, like kind of narrowing down left to naturalized, mulched area, native shrubs, trees, things like that versus maybe a lawn area. A little more detail I think would be helpful, and I think it'd be helpful on a separate sheet from kind of everything else. Just moving forward, we find that when these projects, it's time for construction, and I go out and I meet the contractors, and afterwards, like, oh, well, we don't have a walkway. Can we put a walkway here? Or like, we didn't want lawn. Can we put steps? Like, things change a little bit, so it's kind of better if that's kind of figured out at this point. It helps.
When you were there, you kind of saw how you come out of the house, you went down a couple steps by the horse trough. I think you call it a planter. It's actually a solid stone horse trough. But there's little, stone steps down and then a stone path to the dock.
Yeah.
Which, we don't really
None
have
of
a big
that's been
intention of
changed?
changing, but we can't tell what's going to happen once they
Yeah,
are
because
moving
they're
things
going to
around.
need work areas or whatnot, but I guess, the intent is, is it going to be lawn afterwards, or is this going to be like a landscaped area? Just a little more detail, I think, would be helpful, because right now, the way it looks, and I know we've talked about it, is that the whole area will now become loamed and seeded as lawn, right? And I don't think that's your intent, and I don't think the commission, I think the naturalized site is preferred, so something that clarifies that, and they can give some feedback to you on, what it is maybe they want to see, that could help with that. And, I'm not saying it has to be like exactly figured out, like, there's gonna be a rhododendron here or mountain laurel here.
Yeah,
exactly. Like there can be
that's what we're
some
like,
discretion with it, but I think a little more detail, so that way, not saying you're it's not you guys that are gonna be there, but in the future, we're all not here and someone looks at it, oh yeah, this whole thing's lawn, that's okay, it was approved that way. Just trying to make it very clear for anyone that's not in this room right now looking at it would be helpful. Found that a lot, in the future. We talked about different mitigation options. I already mentioned you guys incorporated some check dams in that swale. I think that'll go a long way because we know that ends up in the lake from that roadway up there. But because, we talked about on site too, the commission has a 50-foot no new structure setback. And when you raise a structure and you put a new one in, you are subject to that. So we talked about that. So the only way that you can get approval for that is to show that there's no alternatives to what you're doing and get a waiver from the board, which would include some mitigation, and that can vary from site to site depending on constraints and what things look like out there. So this project would require a waiver from them. So that's where, looking at things and how you can mitigate for that. Your engineer knows that adding measures in there for managing stormwater off of your house and any other impervious surface.
Which I think is on there, yeah.
Yep, he's got those on there. That's something that can be used towards that. That's good to see. One thing, I don't know, the overflow goes right into that swale. So I don't know if that is something that maybe because it takes all that road runoff, that maybe it's better to have it kind of come out and kind of sheet flow over the property a little bit versus being directed into swale and adding that stormwater. I'm not sure if that's a huge concern or not, but just a note there. On the other side for the parking area, we did talk about that a little bit, and maybe, thinking about how you're gonna cover the whole slope there. You talked about, doing some riprap on there, or you could do like erosion control blanket with like erosion control seed mix would be an option too.
Yeah, that sounded good too, yeah.
Yeah, that might be nice. So think about that, and I think that would be a good improvement. It might be easier than trying to keep all that stone up on the slope maybe, but not a major big deal.
Is that the kind of thing that can be decided after they've dug it and or is that something that has to be figured now?
I mean, the board can decide on that. It's not, you can have it and/or if they don't have a concern.
Well, it's already been dug.
It's
No.
already done.
I know, it's already been dug. It just hasn't been dug the way you're gonna dig it now. And so you can see
Yeah.
how it lacks stability. You send a 6-year-old up the side of that thing, and he's
Oh, I
gonna
know.
send a lot of
It's-
it down.
It's held up pretty well for 30 years, but
I
it needs
understand.
work.
But what it is, what we're going to do to start this thing, as far as this area in here, you can see the solid lines in here. We're excavating this and reshaping the slope over here and over here on this side and back up here to make it reasonable so you stop any erosion. What we also did within the narrative is we've taken the area for the parking area itself and went in with a stone base. So it'll be crushed stone throughout the whole thing. So before we start putting in any riprap on the slope and putting in any vegetation in here, we'd at least be stabilizing this whole area here and containing everything before we start working in this area here. The other thing is that what we did is we took the chambers here and we got that discharging into the swale right here, and the reason for that is we've got the check dams through here, which is no problem at all, and just bringing this thing in here, at least it gives us another chance of cleaning any drip from the roof.
We're on
and
a
everything.
tight schedule here today.
Okay.
Lenny. You've already been through
Done.
that.
Okay, okay.
So, stop down there with you, Eric.
So, and maybe I missed it, what's the rationale or the need to not use the existing footprint?
What it is they said the house right here is this point right here, is
Yeah.
they figure it's too close to the property line. They like to move it back and have a little more privacy, and that's why they're moving it.
It also moves it to the setback. I mean, we figured while we're building the house, why not get it away from the neighbors? And, since we got so much space on this
And
side.
actually, what is happening is a house it's actually being moved from where it is right now to the legal setback for the building itself within the
Well,
property.
and with all due respect, that's somebody else's issue, not ours.
Right,
And-
I know,
and,
just-
it's precedent that concerns me, number one. We can we have a lot of leeway within the existing footprint. As soon as we move it, then it causes other issues, and the square footage, from what I can see here on there, and I don't have a calc on it, and maybe you can give me a calc, Lenny, seems to be there's more structure within that 50-foot no new structure zone than there was before. So I could rationally wrap my head around logically moving it away and retaining the same impact within the 50-foot and maybe work through that with other mitigations. But what I'm having a challenge with in my own head is we're moving it. It's not grandfathered because we're not within the same footprint. We're increasing the square footage within the 50-foot no touch, and obviously, with last meeting, we've had two similar situations come in front of us like this.
Okay, I'd like to clarify one thing, though. We are not adding any more in the 50-foot. The additional area is due here to the entrance in the front of the house with this right here, and that's out of the 50-foot zone, okay? Outside of that, the building itself is basically full foot for what the building is there presently.
There's actually just a tiny bit more, but he's in the right place. But you see how the purple comes down and jogs? You can see the difference.
I just look, maybe it's not to scale, I don't know, it just looks to my eye like there's more square footage inside the 50-foot in total from just looking at the jog.
Within the 50-foot? Not within the 50-foot buffer, there isn't.
Okay, well, maybe I could get
I think it would just be useful to get that
Get the exact
calculation, just existing in 50-foot
because
and
those don't look
proposed.
like they're the same size to me.
Because we added
This
towards the
versus
road,
this.
because our kitchen was too small. We just added,
Is that what you're talking about?
we sigged it.
Yeah. It looks smaller than that to my eye, but, maybe I'm wrong.
Did we add a couple of feet there?
I'm just trying to figure out that.
Well, we need that, Lenny.
I'm gonna need that. I would like to have that calculation. I looked at the pictures, it seems like the lot is fairly well vegetated and natural, but I was not on site, so, Ed and Becky, maybe if you can give me an assessment as, we're pulling out 12 trees, our normal is 2 to 1. There doesn't seem to be enough room in there, but is 14 enough, and is there, to compensate for what's coming out?
I think that over by the swale where a lot of the replacements are shown, we looked at that. I mean, there's already a lot of trees here and a lot of saplings growing up, so I don't even know that it's necessary to put those trees there. I think that it's gonna be really hard to cite 14 additional trees here, but I think that if there's things they can do to make some other improvements to and add some shrubs in the area, I think on this side, I think that some trees would be beneficial. There are a couple larger ones on the adjacent property owner, but they could ask to remove those. Maybe there could be a couple over there. Could go a long way to try to help kind of add some in there for the ones that are lost. I think that might be an area. The front looks pretty good as is.
Okay. I mean, obviously, I don't want to just add trees if it's not going to be necessary, if the canopy's going to stay the same and it's naturally going to grow up, but at the same time, if we're making some changes here that are against precedent, we need to make sure that we're being thoughtful about it. So that's all I have. I'll turn it over to you, Roy.
Just, in lieu of trees, is there a location where you can put in some bushes?
Yeah, one thing is, I mean, in the front here between the road and the house, I mean, there's kind of a slope there, but if that area could be vegetated, maybe some shrubs or even a couple trees up there, might not be a bad idea.
So you've got, you set?
Yep.
First of all, Lenny, I want to make sure that we are not adding to structure in the 50-foot.
We are not.
Okay. Prove that to us. The last two, we struggled to get you to prove it to us.
Yeah.
Bring it to the next meeting.
Probably our architect that has to prove
Yeah.
it.
Bring it to the next meeting. But just to the question of trees, this is a gully between the house and the road. These are all good trees to come up. But we also have the hillside up here, which is large. So it is shading the lake from the hillside. So we're not in bad shape there. That's about all I have to say at this point in time.
So, the other thing, sorry, I'd like to add too is with the swale improvements, we should really look at, a good detail about those improvements. What is it, you just putting rock in for the check dam, or because we can't do mitigation in other ways, can we really do a good job with that swale? Should it, maybe talk to a contractor, does it have filter fabric underneath it? Could it be cleaned out and redone and have the check dams in there? Like, we have some details that, different, much bigger, that Mass DOT uses, but maybe there's a little bit more that can be done to that and get a better understanding of what, just by adding the check dams, what that
Okay.
means.
Becky, let's go to David. David?
I have two questions and a comment. My comment is.
We need to get that mic up.
I don't,
I beg
Dave?
your pardon?
there you go, that's better. We couldn't hear you very well. You gotta be closer to your mic.
I agree with Eric's comments, 100%.
Uh-oh.
And I have two questions. Question number one is, down at the southern end, as our engineering friend likes to call it, there are 3 trees coming out that appear, according to the drawing, to be located right parallel to the lake. And I have great difficulty in thinking that a conservation commission would permit the cutting of a tree that is shading a body of water.
I can comment on that for you, David. The bottom tree on the lake is full of pileated woodpecker holes. It's about a 6-inch pine, and there are a lot of other trees in the area that will take its place quickly, but it's not going to live. The top one is a triple, and it's split, and it's dead. So that one definitely needs to come out.
Okay, when I was there, I could not get to the front of
The middle one, I think, if that's what you have marked, is leaning in the lake. It's almost level with the lake. Is that the one?
No, I don't think the one that's level with the lake is marked. I think
That
that's,
one was added afterwards.
I think this is a different one that's also dead.
The one that isn't, that's level with the lake, it's down to the
Okay.
right-hand corner, but we
Yeah, it
didn't
doesn't look- yeah.
we didn't have that removed.
Okay, good.
That's,
All right,
I can't make out that.
You're in favor of taking down a tree that has proven itself as terrific habitat.
yep.
That's what I'm hearing, that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah, I've talked with them extensively about it. And they like to fish, but they, what can I tell you?
This number 2 is
Okay,
the,
and
that one there.
one more question for the engineer. How robust is the erosion control system going to be between the construction area and the lake?
Did you hear him?
No. What is
How
it?
robust?
Silt fence?
How a what?
Are you proposing a silt fence?
What about the silt fence?
He's asking about your erosion controls, how robust?
We
I guess
had-
the point he's getting is that maybe there needs to be some additional erosion controls on the site too, because it's pretty steep in this area with the extent of work.
Not really, because of the fact the erosion control basically is right here along the property, which is the main working area of this place here. The work across the street here, basically, if you look at this parking lot and you want to use a term, it's actually a kettle, which means it's actually suppressed from Mount Dan Road, and there's a discharge catch basin here, so any runoff from here would actually go into this area here, this catch basin, and then out through here. It wouldn't affect this here. The runoff from here couldn't get to here unless they go through this train.
All right, I'm gonna bring this to a close.
I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. See if there's anybody in the audience that
Is
would
there
like.
anyone on the public line that
Well, wait
would
a
like to
minute.
speak on the
Ed,
16 Mount Dan Road?
Does that mean that there is no construction taking place between the road and the lake?
The road, like,
There's no construction taking place between the road and the lake.
Well, there's definitely construction because they're building a new house right along the road.
Right, so that's why I asked the question about how robust is the erosion control going to be down at the foot of the hill?
oh, you mean along the lake?
Yeah.
sign.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Question. He doesn't mean the lake, he means, is the road gonna fall in your yard?
It does not currently
No.
because it dips away, it dips away from the hill towards the drain side. And they're going to keep careful to make sure it continues to do that. You don't get, other than snow being pushed over it, we don't get any water from the road going down that
Maybe
side.
no construction staging or access up there.
They're going to, like when they did the well,
Yeah,
and they
they
cut
would come
that
down.
road, they came over that, and they did at one point, actually when they were done, and we had them fix it, and we have not had any water coming over that edge since. So it's something that's to be watched carefully, but there's going to be the whole edging all the way around the construction, the normal kind of edging around it. But we've not had any issues with water over the road towards our side, other than the normal push of snow in the winter.
All right,
Okay, but we have to be cognizant of the fact that this past week, we had 2 days of rain, and it didn't affect us very much because it was only 1 inch cumulative over the 2 days. But in a little town called Abington, they had 7 inches. We don't know that we're not gonna have a 2-inch rainstorm at the time that construction is taking place. And I would not like to see parts of that hill get washed because the construction is going on into Big Elm. That's why I'm asking about erosion controls.
Well, Jay, that could be something where, they have a double barrier of erosion controls down by the lakeside. I think that could be satisfied with something
Yeah.
like that, maybe.
one other, you went like this as far as erosion controls were concerned. Lenny?
Our erosion control, if you
The-
look at it, is a two-stage thing.
Let me ask you a
it's-
question.
What?
You had said you were going to tighten up the work area
Right.
on this side.
On which side?
You get that?
Where?
On this side right here, we did, yes.
No, I mean along the lake, tighten it up.
All of this. So that way, it's not equipment going all the way that close
Yeah.
to the lake. Like, the
Well,
work area doesn't need to be,
We could move it back another 10 feet or so.
That's what I thought we
Josh-
said
yeah,
at the.
Yeah.
and over here
meeting.
too.
He needs to be able to get his equipment by, and then the tree people have to be able to get in there too.
Well, the tree people can
Right.
go in before. We can phase the stuff, but right, tightening up so
Yeah.
that way it's not like, we talked about on site, so the equipment doesn't think they can park over here and we wanna protect the trees, so like the limit of work should really be closer and then we can phase it when they install this. We can talk about moving the erosion controls.
But also the drainage swale, I don't know at what point they're gonna work on that.
We
but
can,
All right,
we can work to phase
I'm
that.
trying to not hit 11 o'clock
Yeah,
tonight.
no, I
So,
know, I know.
Blame me.
why don't we see if anybody in the audience?
did.
Okay, there's nobody?
Nope. Unless
All
there's
right.
someone here.
All right. Lenny, would you like a continuation?
Please,
Continuation till the next meeting?
do you want a continuation?
Yeah.
Okay, I request a continuation to the next meeting.
So you can work out some of the things we talked about.
Yep, okay.
All right.
Continuation then to September 15th.
Yep.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Deborah and Heather didn't get to say anything. Is that okay?
They were there to listen. Take notes.
All right. We are on. Thank you. Lenny, you're on to the next one, huh?
Right,
Thank you, people.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'll get back to you. I've got a few more.
242 Big Allen Road, NOI, raise and rebuild, single-family home.
If someone else wants to come up, they can just put your own.
Yeah. Yeah, you can bring them up.
That's up to you.
You don't have to.
If I'm needed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe, how are you doing? That's a good thing. Yeah, we're here.
Well, there we go. Good to see you. Thank you.
All right.
Oh, paper copy, thank you.
I got that one.
Joe, if you keep hiring Lenny, he's never going to retire. You-
Yeah, just for the record, we do have proof of abutter notifications and legal ad received. Is that on our phone line?
Or it's on somebody.
Oh, for everybody on GoToMeeting or the phone line who's not part of the public hearing, could you please mute yourself and just unmute when it's your turn, please? We're just getting some conversations here. Thank you. Lenny, do you want me to give a quick overview, or you want to go over it? Up to you.
I can go over it quickly. Okay, basically, what we're doing is we're taking the existing house, raising the existing house and replacing it and connecting it to the existing cottage here at this point right in here. It's staying within the footprint and set back here. And basically, the connection would be a deck in this area here, which is shown on the plans that were enclosed, connecting this building with that building there. There will be one tree which will be removed next to the driveway, which is actually a fruit tree, which we're going to make this here stone, a track pad coming in here, which we have a detail for the track pad for that, and then the building itself is coming in here. The lake down here in the front, which is a stone, a wall down here, and then a dock down here, and it's nothing will be done in this area here, within actually over about 150 feet from the lake to here, and the only activity will be here around this house and this one here. The property is serviced with a private well and a septic town sewer. So that's it, quickly in a nutshell. It's an open lot. Basically, from here all the way, there's no removal, there's no excavation down below here.
All right,
It's
Becky,
All
nothing.
right, thanks.
she was there.
Are you with it, right? Okay.
All right, so DEP did issue a file number. They did have a comment, pretty much, Lenny, you did address, they had a question about the abutter notification process. And on the NOI, it said there was 8 feet of bank impact, which I think we realized was just carried over from before. So there's no concerns there. Right, we've got the lake and we've got a border vegetated wetland on the other side. We're really, it's in within the 200 feet of our lake park, but we're really looking at it because it's closest to the wetland across the street. No work, there's no structures proposed within the 50-foot, no new structure setbacks, we don't have to worry about that. He's addressed the erosion controls, he's got a tracking pad on the site. Like you said, there's one tree up in the front, which I think is like an ornamental tree that's coming out. There is an oak, Lenny did revise the plan and send one in, it's not
Yeah,
this one.
excuse me, there's one right over here we're
Yeah,
taking out, too.
an oak, very far from any resource area, not a concern there. Let me keep going through this. Would like to see, since we've got stormwater structures in the paver driveway, just like a quick like O&M plan. You've done that before for some other ones, that just let the property owner know what the maintenance requirements are on that. We do
Okay.
include those with the permits that can be conditioned to get that prior to the start of work. Water sewer department, we do send this out to the departments for comments. I'm just gonna read, they had a couple quick comments here. So they're requesting information on the sewer lines and pumps. Will the lines be reused, and are the pump chambers staying in place? How will the pump chambers and line be protected during construction? If the lines are to be shut off during construction, they must make a request ahead of time in writing to the tax collector's office. They also said, will the existing building not be modified and continue to be used during construction? Will the construction interrupt the power supply to the E1 pump system or the piping to the E1 pump system? If the E1 is not going to be in use during construction, the pump should be removed for protection. If it's going to be used, extra protection should be in place. So just coordinate with them. It has nothing to do with our review at this time. But right, if you're planning on still living in the other one, you've got to shut down, a little coordination you guys got to do. Planning commented, they said the application will have to go to ZBA for expansion or change of pre-existing non-conforming structure, which you're aware of. So as far as what I think this is, this project is a good point. I would recommend approval of this. I would reference the revised plan that has the other tree and the erosion control changes that Lenny submitted to us late last week. And with the conditions, our standard orders of conditions that we add in there is some pre-construction, during construction, and after construction requirements. It asks for the engineer to provide the O&M plan to be referenced in the orders prior to the start of work. It's pretty basic, but things that you need to do to make sure you kind of maintain those structures there, for the roof runoff and the driveway, as I mentioned. There would be perpetual conditions for maintenance of pervious pavers and drainage structures, and since this is a raise and rebuild of structure, the commission's been requiring a surety bond or deposit, can be insurance bond or deposit, for a single-family residential project, it's been $5,000, and you get it back when you get a certificate of compliance, it just shows that you've met all the conditions. So that's it.
Okay, just quickly, I
Wait, we're
wrote,
gonna go through the.
I wrote a letter on the 10th to the state showing the progress for a letter of notification to abutters and stuff. I'll give you a copy of the letter.
Yep, I have it, Lenny,
You have one? Right, okay.
thank you.
Down the end? Eric?
The pervious paver, is that, that's gonna be added, right?
No, it's on the plan.
No, excuse me.
But it's not there now.
It's not there now.
Oh, no, it's not there now.
If there's one thing I've learned on this
Who's on
commission
first?
in 3 years is, that, yeah, it needs to be on the plan. But also that the pervious paving structures need operation and maintenance. So are we gonna have an O&M plan associated with that so it doesn't become impervious over time?
Yep.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
Nothing.
The question I had, Lenny, did you, you're gonna put a full foundation under this new building?
Yes, as far as building code, I need at least 4 foot of frost cover by state law.
Are you gonna hit water?
Close.
What?
I would say not really, but I don't think so.
What?
We're elevation right now where the building is going at 728, and the lake itself is down to is down maybe way below that, so it's 721. So the house and everything is roughly 6.5 feet above the lake.
But if
I
you
don't
put
think
in,
I don't think we're going
if
to
you put in an 8-foot basement.
No, it's a crawl space.
It's not gonna be a full.
What's a crawl
No.
space? Oh, okay, all right.
I
That answers my
expanded it, my husband can, but it's gonna turn to a crawl space, we're doing attic.
Yep, okay, that answers the question.
It's a small, short wall, okay? It's not 8 foot.
We can always add a condition during work if there's dewatering measures that are put in place.
David, you have any questions?
Barnacle, no questions.
Can I ask you a question, Becky, before we, there are, just one thing to add, I don't know if you saw them when you're out there, all right, so here's Roy Road, here's Big Elm. There are a couple pine trees here that are dead, which we want to take down and replace. Like, we like the privacy they have.
Yeah.
So we want to replace them, we don't want the existing ones, they're just, as part of this, we're trying to clean it up.
I guess that could just be
Yeah.
modified on the plan and shown on here, do you want that?
The-
Modify the plan and show those.
Are they on the-
The trees are shown on the plan, not on this one, I don't know why, but on this one they are.
So, all right, so
They're right
Yep,
here.
it's those 5 that are there, or those 4, I guess, and then that
Right,
one will stay.
those right in here.
so just mark the two
They're on the plan.
dead and show, yeah, but mark them to be removed
Yep,
and replaced.
With what?
Similar species, were they spruces or something?
They're huge, like pines that are, what even are those? They're some
they're
sort
like
of
a
evergreen,
spruce,
they're really
yeah.
big and they're dying their butt.
So-
We had it checked by 2 tree companies.
They're evergreen
We're
tree?
probably,
Yep.
they're an evergreen.
Okay.
We would replace it with something privacy. We're right on the road, so I would wanna put a bunch of shrubbery to block and create privacy. I don't know exactly what tree is gonna be best, but it probably would be some sort of evergreen so that we have year-round, foliage.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't
I
think
don't
it's
have any
a
problem with
huge.
that. At that distance,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah.
All right, so now we have to check the audience.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the 242 Big Alum Road notice of intent?
Hearing none? Do I have a motion to
Motion to
close
close
the...
the public hearing.
All right,
I'll second that.
the second. Any discussion on closing the public hearing? Hearing none? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Now, if I have a motion to approve the project?
Yeah, we are at 242 Big Alum, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion to approve DEP file number 300-1136 for 242 Big Alum Road, with the appropriate agent's notes and the revision to the plan to strike and add those 2 trees.
Second
You
that.
second that?
Yeah.
Any discussion?
I have one question.
Oh.
On the plan that is up right now, why does it say Roy Road?
It's on Big Alum and Roy Road, but the
Yeah.
address is Big Alum Road.
Okay. No questions.
And just the addition of the O&M
Yeah.
plan
Yeah.
for the driveway. Sorry.
All right, hearing, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. So, thanks, Lenny.
Thank you.
Sir?
Next up is ZBA, so we're all set.
Now we're
when we get
at
there.
15 Cove, am I?
Yeah.
15 Cove Drive, notice of intent, addition of a lakefront house.
No.
Pawnee, it's in Pawnee.
Bye. You want this to be done?
Hey, Joe, soccer season just started, you want to ref?
He needs a job.
I don't remember if I did that.
You did.
Actually, Teddy is coaching our niece.
Really?
You got a lot of busy stuff going on.
This is my first time.
I know, you're getting good at this stuff.
Okay, you have the other stuff.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Great. I'm
You
glad
wanna
somebody
read
does.
the beginning it, or you want me to? We're at 4. Did you already say it?
I didn't, 15 Cove Drive?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Didn't I say, I
Yeah,
did
he
say
did.
it.
He
Oh,
did.
sorry, I was-
I did.
Yeah. Just before we start, just for the record, we do have proof of legal ad and butter notifications, so we can open the hearing. You need a cart like me, Lenny. You can bring all your stuff.
I don't leave it in the office, just like I got.
We should give you an office here.
Okay, all set. Okay. You want to say anything first? You want me to say it first, or just?
Yeah, you can give an overview.
Okay, what we're actually doing here is, I don't know what, where's the clicker right there? What the heck?
I think it's under there. Go.
There you go.
Okay, what we're actually doing here is doing the improvements in the front of the building immediately adjacent to Cedar Lake. What it was the, getting a letter from DEP for the file number. They questioned the flood district and everything down below here. What we did is we added in the floodplain on the property itself, which is in blue, in here for the state to show that we weren't working within that area. And it's the area what we're using is from the lake itself to where we're working now. What we're doing is we're actually taking the deck, which is right in here, this section here, taking that out and replacing it with a new deck in this area with a pervious patio down here on this section and here with a small retaining wall along this area here, which is almost from grade to 1 foot high maximum. So it's pretty shallow. And also what they want to do is to take the addition right here on the property on this side here and add this and enclose it to a screen room, this side here, and then take the area under this portion here.
Sorry, Lenny. Could whoever's talking on the webinar, please mute your microphone? I can't hear what Lenny's describing.
Your mic though is not working.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
We can't.
I'm sorry, Lenny. I just.
No problem.
Dave, we're gonna mute you guys till your turn, because we're just getting a lot of, sound from you, okay?
I know, but I mean, they could like a puddle.
Okay, can I talk now?
Yeah, I just muted him.
Okay, what it is in the, now I get an echo, okay?
Don't handle the microphone.
Oh, okay.
It's just very sensitive. Just leave it right there.
Okay. Okay, what we're doing is in the front there is we're putting in a screen room in this section right over here. And if you look at your packet with the notice of intent, we have a picture of what it looks like in the back of it, which shows you the screen room here, and then we're excavating this area here. What we're doing is we're staying pretty close to the maximum from the lake itself. We're around 28 feet from here to here for the lake, and I know we have a 25-foot no-touch. So what we're doing in here is we're actually excavating along this section from the house, which is this point here to there, and putting in a concrete block wall, which would be roughly 1 foot above grade in here for the screen room to be extended in that full area.
Why is that called existing house?
What? This is the existing house right here.
Well, what was your arrow on when you were right over here when I,
Well, that's the existing house.
is it?
No, there's no excavation there. This is actually above grade.
All right. What are you excavating, Lenny?
The basement area on this section right here.
Show me that again, slowly.
Right here.
On the
there.
existing house?
Right,
You're
that section right.
excavating the basement.
That basement right there.
Okay.
Okay, and that's it. And then we're going to put the concrete block wall here and here, and then make it one room. If you, excuse me.
Do you want me to pull up the image on the other plan that shows what that
If you
looks
have
like?
that image, it'd be good if you can.
Yeah, I mean, I did send them photographs that I took out there too, so that there's, you know, it's a raised structure there, like a porch on top. But let's see, there we go. Yeah, let's zoom in
All right.
there. There we go.
Okay, now, if you look at what I'm talking about, is that this area right here is existing. Okay, and it's got footings going down here, sonotubes supporting this upper floor, and then inside there is actually fill. So what we're doing is we're going to excavate under that building here and make this a screen room.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make sure it was
Okay,
clear.
and what we're doing is we're putting in the concrete block on this side here where the grade is we're excavating in that one room, that's it. And this here is actually just putting, if you look at the detail of it, you'll see right here, there's actually a small retaining thing which is retaining the pervious patio. That goes from this point here right around, which is basically right in here.
That's the wall that's gonna be underneath the porch?
Right.
No, it's the wall that's on the patio.
Oh, this one, sorry.
That's okay.
So is the wall in or out of the 20-foot No touch.
It's out of it,
By how much?
roughly 2 feet.
So that's new construction inside the 50-foot no build.
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
All right, Becky, you have anything to say?
Yeah, just a few comments. So DEP did issue a file number comments. They wanted to see bordering land subject to flooding shown on here, because it is here.
Yeah.
Lenny did revise the plan, put that on there, so that's taken care of. There's no work within that. We did a site visit out there, kind of went over a lot of the stuff. So you heard a lot of things I had to say at that time. Right, there's a couple parts to this project here. There's, I'm just gonna go back to the colored one. We've got this line coming in from the road. It's just really digging a trench just to do underground utilities. That is within the buffer of the vernal pool that's over there. He's got the vernal pool in the lake here. We looked at that, no concerns with that. It's just a very small trench that goes into the shed. Lakeside, right, we've got, you know, he's taking down an existing deck with a gazebo out there. Pretty big structure, wants to put in that pervious patio, so no concerns with that. And then putting the screened room in underneath that existing structure, but then there's also kind of a bump out added there. The owner talked about why he wanted something there. There's a door that goes in. It is a new structure in there. It would require a waiver if the commission granted it, a review of alternatives that, you know, why you can't do it, et cetera, with the mitigation. They've got some BMPs in here for roof runoff infiltration off of the front where the porches will be. We did note on site, there's kind of some erosion coming from some of the gutters. There could be some good improvements on the site made by mitigating some of that stormwater, especially on that northern side. We did look at, there's a lot of tree roots in the area where the addition under the porch would go. So we really wanted to make sure the hillside around there, that pine by the water, its roots go all the way up to the house, uphill there, really make sure it doesn't impact that. What it looks like underneath the existing screen porch really does look like kind of fill material without the roots there. So, you know, if there was a way to put that underneath the existing structure without impacting it, which I think there is, and that you know, would be underneath what's already there, but then there would be that bump out that's right at that 25-foot buffer, which is a new structure. The other parts of the deck that are within the 50-foot, that's where the deck was. I think that because it's, you know, a deck and it's where the deck was, and he's making that a lot smaller with the patio, I wouldn't see any concerns. It's just a matter of how the commission feels about that new structure within the 50-foot associated with that screened-in room.
Right. Eric? Did you go out there?
I did not.
Well, let me go first then.
Yeah.
Go back to the
Yep.
the rendering. Okay, this right now underneath here is just post-construction. And there's fill that comes off the hill. It's just in the same as the hill behind it. That goes up it more than it looks there, I think. And what he is suggesting he'll do is he wants to just take that out and make that a screened-in porch. Take the pill out, okay? Now, the question I have, this is the patio that he's adding, but he's taking down a porch. Now go back to the other one. So this is the porch, right?
Right,
Here?
Yeah, there's a gazebo.
See this? That's coming down. And then he's gonna have this and this and that. I just thought it was confusing, so I
Yeah.
wanted to.
No, I mean, and thank you for that. That was helpful. Because I thought that the porch piece was actually larger now than before, than after, so, but the notes said differently. I guess I'm mostly concerned about precedent and making sure that we're applying, the regulations fairly to everyone. And this is another, if I can see the rationale within the existing footprint without that extra bump out. Like, because the footprint's there, right? It's laid out. I know it doesn't have, I know it's fill underneath there and all that, but it's within an existing footprint. So I can get there in my own head. What I have difficulty getting there in my own head is that extra space that we want to build essentially a partial new structure in. So we're extending the footprint. So how's that any different than any of the other things that we have got? So I guess I would like to hear from Lenny and the applicant, what are the mitigators that are being provided in this plan to justify us looking at this differently than any other project, which would, if it's within the existing footprint, and there's a leap there, but I'm willing to take it, as opposed to going outside of the existing footprint.
Okay, what actually takes place here is if you look at this deck that's in here right now, there's actually a screen room up there on top of that existing deck that he's taking out and removing.
Just about 500 square feet.
That's 500 square feet?
Just the gazebo.
Right, the gazebo.
Yeah.
That's being removed, and then over here, we're going in basically with 140 square feet.
So what you're telling me is within the 50-foot, we are taking out a 500-foot structure.
And putting in
And we're putting in a 140-foot structure.
Correct.
Most of which is already within existing footprint.
That is correct.
So maybe the expansion of that footprint of that 140 is 20%, maybe 28.
Of the structure we're removing, yes.
Oh, yeah.
No, of what we're at, like how much of that 140 feet is expansion outside of the existing footprint?
None.
None. The existing footprint is there, you know.
Not this
Oh,
purple square, though.
Yeah, that purple square
Right.
is about,
Exist.
is the 140 feet.
Oh, so that's all
That's it.
expansion of, so that is expansion beyond the existing footprint.
That is correct.
So we're taking out 500 and we're replacing it with 140.
Correct.
Okay, all right, that's all I had.
Any protection for erosion when you're doing the construction?
What, erosion control? We have erosion control.
Yeah, that's this dotted.
It's on the plan.
Okay.
It's all there. It's there. You just can't see it. It goes right around all the way through. It's protected.
David?
One more question, please. Lenny, what you just described to Eric and is up on the plan, that little zigzag part, how much of that is incorporated in the new concrete wall, 1 foot tall, that you're going to be creating?
The concrete wall itself, what is it going to be?
Yeah. Is that going to be in association with that part that's shown on the plan? Or is that further down toward the bottom of the plan?
Is the wall where I have my cursor
The
here?
wall right here is here in the front and there, and right here to this point there, the existing
You can't see
building.
your pointers.
Yeah, it would stop at the existing.
Right there.
Dave, can you see my cursor on the screen?
No, the only thing I can see is the plan.
Oh,
Okay, well, the plan right here, on this side here, be roughly 10 feet, I think it is. Let me, is it 10? Okay, it's roughly 10.
So the wall that you're building is inside of the 50 and is going to be a support mechanism for the screened-in porch?
for the porch, right?
No, it's support mechanism for the existing sunroom.
So how about we have Lenny answer, please?
Oh, well,
It's what now? I can't.
He wants to know if the wall.
We're having a little trouble hearing you, Dave, so he was
wants
trying
know
to
if the
help.
wall is,
Oh, sorry.
that's underneath the sunroom is for the structure of the new screen room, or for the structure for the sunroom above.
Well, the sunroom above it basically now is on sonotubes and columns coming in to support it. And what we're doing there is we're taking to put in another wall from here to here, and this wall will become an integral part of supporting that room.
And is that wall going to be in the 50-foot no build?
Yes.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's in addition, that is in addition to what we have been talking about with Eric.
No.
No.
Go back to the other plan. David, as you look at this plan, the building rear elevation,
Yeah.
okay?
Well, wait a minute. Why is it
To the
really doing this?
Let me say, to the left, all right?
Yeah.
That little top hut and the lower portion are there. The only thing that isn't there is the lower portion isn't finished, and it has loam in it. It's like the topo of the ground
Right.
around it. So they
Is that
want
in,
to make that as
is that
clean.
in the 50-foot no build?
Yes. Yep. So they want to.
So now we're proposing to fill the rest of it.
Well, we're just trying to, we dig out underneath it is what we're talking about. But yes, I mean, depending on how you want to look at it. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So, audience.
Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak on the 15 Cove Drive notice of intent? Or anyone in the public? Well, in the room. Hear anyone?
Not hearing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Discussion, David? Hearing none. All in favor of closing the public hearing?
David Barnacle, in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Do I have a motion to approve the project as discussed?
Yeah, I think my concerns have been covered. I don't think we're running into any precedent issues here, or at least ones we can't cover. So I'd like to make a motion to approve DEP file number 300-1137 for the property at 15 Cove Drive.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
David Barnacle, not in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. So we're done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yep. All right, we're now at 92 McGargle?
Five.
Good Lord, Lenny.
86,
Is this 5 for 5?
Did I miss one?
Yeah, number 5.
Oh, man.
Hardest working man in Sturbridge, Lenny Jalbert.
Oh, Lenny, you still here?
Yeah, well, I'm still going.
4 out of 5.
No, I got one more in the back, too, a certificate of compliance.
Okay.
Wow.
You want to start it off, Lenny, or do you want Becky too?
Becky can do, we've been over this one
What's the-
many,
oh.
many times, so.
Lenny, you don't have to stay for the 10 Willard one. There's no concerns there.
No concerns?
Yeah, you don't have to stay later. That's,
Thank you.
Don't worry about the future. Get in the present, Becky. We want to keep moving.
all right, so, I'll pull up in a second. There's a revised plan. This has been continued for a few times, looking at revisions on here. So, like I said, he submitted a revised plan, so there's a revised site plan with the revised septic plan. Last public hearing, I believe we resolved the concern and question about the septic system. Board of Health did provide comment on that. They didn't have any concerns with the outstanding water resource area that we have, which is the vernal pool. Where it was left was to look at some additional build. The commission still had some concern with what was being shown there, in addition with where the existing structure was and how much development was proposed on the site. So there was reduction to the riverfront impacts had been addressed in the last plan. Some of the commissioners expressed that they had less concern with that than the 50-foot build, and that they would be willing to allow for some additional work within that riverfront area because it was a developed yard. They'd rather see that than 50 feet from the lake. So this current plan that's been sent in here, let me pull it up, does show a shift of the house, looking at moving back into the riverfront, let's see, riverfront area. But it still does have part of the structure within the 50-foot there. So we can see that here. The house did move kind of substantially back in this area. The commission could see if they don't have any concerns with that. I mean, it was a developed yard. We do have provisions within our riverfront regulations about impacting riverfront. DEP does allow some of that, but it has to be an improvement over that. I think that you could easily show by maybe adding some improvements in the remaining riverfront area under those mature trees, maybe some naturalization restoration of that area that could easily compensate for that and meet those performance standards. So that would be my recommendation for that. But like I said, there was a portion of the structure that changed. Is kind of the bump out here. Added within the 50-foot in the, this is the pervious paver patio that had been shown before kind of in this area. So I think that's really kind of where things got left, was really looking at that 50-foot. Like I said, it shifted, more of the house was kind of in this area, and now it's this bump out area here. And there was a question too, it looked like the overall impact calculations, the impervious coverage on the lot increased a little bit from the last plan too. So just clarification on that.
Okay.
Lenny?
Yeah, what it is, basically what happened is with the house, now the way it is here, if we were bumped out in here, but this area in here is already in where the existing structure is. In fact, if you take the existing structure and what we're proposing right here in this area where this is, there's going to be a negative coverage there of 270 square feet, which is not going to be covered within the proposed area here for this thing here. The addition going from here to there in a basically westerly direction is all below the 50-foot line. This is all in the over 50 feet right in here. So that's about the best we can possibly do with the structure that's there. The area that's right here with the trees, that's in here, we can vegetate this in here, not put grass in, and there's a lot of trees in that area already which are shown in here. The canopy there is pretty extensive. We're over half of the area from here to here has got 18-inch oaks, 32-inch oaks, 34 oak, 24 oak, 8-inch birch, 16-inch, and then 15-inch. So there's a lot of big trees over here that's already there. So the canopy is pretty full. There's a tent right here that's going to be removed. There's a septic system here, which you got a letter from the Board of Health that's been approved by them for installation. And we're going to put a track pad in here for construction. And we're putting in the chambers up here on this section in here and over here for any runoff for the building itself. That's it in a nutshell.
Eric, you want to start?
Well, I'm just, so how did we come up with a calculation of 227 square feet less?
207.
That area.
207 in the.
He was just talking in one area.
Right,
He wasn't
right.
talking about the site. So it's,
No, not of the site, but we're talking about within the 50-foot, right?
Okay.
Because what I'm seeing is house right there versus house right here, so
Okay, can I? show
unless
them
this is being
That's
added
how,
into the
that's how I get
calculation
the
as well.
270 square feet.
what?
That's how I get the 270 square
Can't
feet.
you do it with your pointer on there?
That-
What are you talking about, this thing?
I can't really read that. This here's a lot clearer, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, you're gonna go 1 to 1 to 1 to 1?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Okay, here it is.
No one can hear you, though.
No, you can't hear you, they can't hear you at home.
Okay, let me work it from here then. Okay, the 270 square feet is this area right in here. This area here is part of the existing building. This area comes up here and then comes down this side right here, right from this area here. That's the 270 square feet.
So is that house, right? Because this area here with this lighter dash, is that house? Or is this house?
The house right here goes down this, and that's part of a deck that's out in the back of the house.
Okay, so how, then if you're including the deck, are you including the pervious pavers into your calculation? It seems, yeah, I'm a big fan of being intellectually honest, so let's, if we're including deck, we should include the offset of the pervious pavers. Right?
If we're including the
Well,
deck.
how much is the square footage of the pervious patio?
The pervious patio was that's 260 square feet.
So, but so really, we're not net improving anything, because 207 is less than 260.
Right, if you figure the pervious patio.
Right, but if you're including the deck, you've got to include the patio. I'm just trying to get, I'm trying to help out here, but I need some intellectual honesty so I can get there in my
Okay.
head. Because the patio is essentially the deck in my eyes, is the way that I look at it. So that's just an offset. It's, what I'm, what we have here is house, and then what we have here is house. What is the square footage of this house area inside of the 50-foot? And again, I'm not 100, I would love to stay within the same footprint, but obviously we can't in this case. What is the square footage of what is house versus the square footage of what is house inside of that 50-foot?
Okay, the square footage outside of that would be roughly 5 by 20, so it'd be roughly 100, let's see, I got the calculations right here, let me just check. Let's see. I'll be right with you. Okay, the actual house that's going up in there would be roughly 90 square feet.
And so the new structure, 90 square feet.
Correct.
The old structure was how much?
The old structure, meaning what, this is gonna be the.
Not including the deck.
Okay.
This,
Okay. If you take.
I think I need some caffeine to calm my nerves.
You're gonna have a net coverage, right here between this line here of the building and there, that area right here would be 90 square feet.
Right, so what is existing there right now? I'm just trying to wrap my brain around house footprint inside of the 50-foot. That little sliver right there. How much is currently in square footage in there? Inside of the 50-foot.
That little sliver right there is 12 by 5, which is roughly 60 square feet.
Right, see, that's That's part of my issue. I mean, first of all, we're going closer to the lake, which I don't like, and we're expanding the footprint. What would be the challenge of taking this little jog out and just bringing it back to this line? You're still gonna have a little bit of a jog out. It's not gonna be everything that we're looking for, but you're looking for. What would be the issue with just going back to
Okay,
that line?
if I took that line right there from the building to the lake itself, it is almost 39 feet. Okay,
What about this area? Like, is there a way to maximize kind of using this?
from right here to here, it's 39 feet right there.
Well, yeah, it's less than 50.
Correct.
I get it,
Okay.
I'm just trying to find a way to not increase the volume that is in that's, what I said at the last meeting. We're increasing, all right, I'll pass the baton to Roy.
Lenny, the only, I don't even want to ask you the question because you're going to struggle with it, but this new house is X square feet. What is that?
The new house is, it comes out to be, with the porch, it's 2,193 square feet.
2,193. And the old house was?
The old house with the deck, 1,184.
1,184. And you're still insisting on going inside the 50-foot. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. David?
No question.
All right, do you want us to vote on it, Lenny, or you want to go back? You're going to have to look at it.
Continuance.
I'll ask for a continuance.
All right. Do we ask anybody outside?
Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak on the 86 and 88 South Shore Drive continued notice of intent? Don't hear anyone.
All in favor of continuance?
Eric Aspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor.
Are we saying to the next meeting?
Yep.
Favor. We need to be certain that we don't do this ring around the rosy thing another time. Either you're in the 50-foot, no build, or you're not.
We can't say that. We can't say that one of us wouldn't change our mind or whatever.
That's true.
This plan, we're
You
on
are
this plan,
correct.
and this plan
Yeah.
is unacceptable. They can
But
tell.
yes, I
from what
vote in
we've said.
favor of the continuation.
Yeah,
Until the September 15th meeting,
September
Lenny?
15th,
Is that the request?
That's the request, yes.
right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, without further ado,
Oh, thank you so much.
Right. Becky, you're on. You had the,
You want me to read it? We're now at 7 o'clock, which is 92 McGargle Road. We have a request for determination of applicability. We have the removal of trees within 25 feet of bank. The applicant, we have Tom Creedon, no representative. The request is to issue a determination. Do you want to quickly go over the request, or would you like me to summarize?
Thank you
It's
for
up
your
to you.
time.
I'm Cheryl Wood Creedon, co-owner. If you would like to summarize, that would be
Sure.
fine.
Yep. So with the detailed agenda, I did include some photographs for you to look at, so you can see the trees that were being removed. They originally came in, there's 2 trees. It's a maple and a pine that have grown into each other, pretty interesting, on the bank of Leadmine Pond. They're both leaning, the maple closer to the water has a more of a significant lean over the lake. More recently, they've noticed that the root structure of the pine has started to come up out of the ground. You can see that in there, and they've noticed some change in, the position of the trees there. They've had some concern. They'd like to take them down before they fall. It is an actively used area. And, you know, the falling of that will, you know, destabilize that bank area by pulling all those roots up. They also have, you know, 2 other trees further back from the lake. They do have wetlands on the back side of the property, on the other side of the road. Very well treed area. I tried to show that with the photographs that I provide you. A couple trees, one's got a pretty good lean on it, leaning towards some power lines over the neighbor's shed. Another smaller maple growing within some other ones, funky roots kind of wrapping around the tree. You know, not trees that are providing any, you know, shade to the lake, you know, of concern. They're not looking to take down the other 2 trees right now, but would like to have approval so they don't have to come back at the time if they get worse pretty soon. Which I don't have any concerns with those ones. The one on the 2 on the lake that are combined, I do think that, right, they've documented that it is significantly changing, and if it falls, could cause some harm to people in that area and will impact that whole bank area. There's a lot of small trees that are kind of growing up. Based off, you know, being on their property, I think that a 2-to-1 would be pretty hard to accomplish. There are a lot of trees there. They've done a great job keeping them there, but then maybe there's one way of getting one other tree kind of in the vicinity where the 2 by the lake that comes down might be a suitable replacement, but I don't think a 2-to-1 is really kind of possible in that area.
Okay.
That's what I got for you.
Carol, anything?
No, we want to maintain the integrity of the shoreline and protect our neighbor's property.
Okay. Anything?
I'm good.
David?
No questions.
No questions. Now, this is just a
It's a determination.
determination.
Yep, so
Okay, go ahead.
Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak on the 92 McGargle Road request for determination of applicability?
Hearing none?
I don't see anyone.
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor.
With regards to 92 McGargle Road, I'd like to make a motion to issue a DOA with a -3 with the conditions of the standard pre-work and sign-off conditions, no stump or root removal, and with a replacement of 1 maple near the bank, tree to be at least 1.5 inches in diameter. What's BH?
Breast
David?
height.
Breast height, there you go.
Sorry, I'm not
And
doing
to be planted immediately, and a positive 2B, and a positive number 5 with the conditions noted above.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
thank you. Have a good night. Hello.
Oh, I forgot these were back.
Can we catch up?
Oh, they made it themselves too, so.
So we on, what are we on now? We're 7.
Number
right?
7, yep.
235 Podunk Road, notice of intent construction of a single-family home, DEP file number 300-1134.
Yep, just so, just for the record, before opening the public hearing, we do have proof of a butter notification in legal ad received. DEP did issue a file number. The only comment they had, so just for clarification, originally when this notice of intent was received, both properties were under 1 notice of intent, which was divided into 2. So the original comments included for both 235 and 237 Podunk. One of the things was the filing did not come in with a site plan. They asked for the site plan, but they did issue a file number at that time. So Dave, do you want me to give a overview of the project here, or do you want me to just go over this quickly, or would you like to start with that? Brunel, Dave Brunel?
Well, I'm waiting for Mary Ann, but I think it comes down to a simple line. that's the only disagreement I think we have.
Okay, yeah, I'll give a summary. So these were applications that were in front of us, last year. When it came in, we had a question about the wetland line. We went out, kind of looked at it, asked for some revisions. They agreed to revise them. The project was kind of put on hold. They were looking at moving the septic systems, and they were waiting for perks on that. So it continued for a while. Eventually, they withdrew. The septic perks were in the back by the wetland. They wanted to move them in the front. I think they might have needed to. I'm not exactly 100% sure, but so this spring or this year, they were able to get perks in the front of the property. So they've refiled applications. It doesn't look like anything's been changed that we talked about last year with the wetland line, and that was kind of the outstanding concern here for conservation. It does have some implications that we've talked to the applicant about with the zoning board of appeals for upland wetland ratio factors needed for a building lot. So Ed and I did go out for the site visit last week. One thing we had asked for was the individual site plans that came in for each property didn't include the full wetland line, so we couldn't really see it on the plan. They did bring a snapshot in today. We do need, engineer plans that show everything on one with those. But I think there's still that question. We walked out there, we looked out there, some concern with the wetland line out there. We were only able to find one flag too, which was number 2, which these are in the 20s out there. So some concern. I think that, the question is right. The commission agrees with the applicant with the wetland line. It looks like, right, as he said, they're not changing the wetland line. My recommendation, if there's not an agreement here, then maybe a third-party peer review would be advisable to get that line figured out if we can't come to an agreement between the board and the applicant, so.
Well, changing, we didn't find it, really.
Right, it needs to be reflagged. We need to make sure all the
Reflagged.
flags are out there.
I don't have any problem with it being reflagged. I mean,
As
that's
the
what
next
needs to be
step,
done.
and then
as
go
the
from
next step.
there?
Go from there.
And the site wasn't staked.
Put it on a plan and reflag it, put it on a plan, and
Were you able to clarify that with Mary Ann about all the flags being out there or not?
She did reflag it.
what do you say?
He said she did reflag it.
Okay. Then we're nowhere then.
Yeah, and one other thing too, I mean, they filed state notice of intent, but there's no work currently shown within that. If the wetland line changes, that may change that jurisdiction right now, but right now, I mean, is no work within state jurisdiction, just so you're aware of that.
Okay. So do we want a continuation here, Dave?
Well, probably, but my other question is, maybe I'm misunderstanding. Even if that line moves forward towards the front of the property, I understand that it's not gonna have any impact on conservation. So
Well-
I'm kind of confused by that.
Yeah, no. So Dave came in today and we had a conversation. We've had a few conversations about this. If your wetland line moves, it doesn't mean that you can't build that property for conservation, right? We have 25-foot setback, we have a 50-foot no new structures, there's Title V restrictions about where wetlands are and septic systems. You'd have to show that you can comply with that, but based off of what you have on your plan, you probably won't fall within a 25-foot no touch or a 50-foot no new structure if things did shift a little bit out there. So it can't say that it would have no implication on your project, but based off of if there was some shift in that area, you might not be in a situation where you have to work within 25 feet of that wetland or put a structure within 50 feet. So you could probably still get a permit through conservation. We'd have to look at that where that is. But when we were looking at that, we're just kind of looking at where the existing tree line is. We know it doesn't extend beyond that. You'd probably be okay that you could probably still move forward with conservation approvals. It may have other implications for your project though, but understanding and having a clear approval
No.
of the line is important.
We need the lines.
Yeah.
As simple as that.
Sorry.
That's fine. We continue it to the next meeting then.
All right.
Well, so what are you saying? We're gonna go back out and look for these flags
No,
now,
you're
or?
gonna have to have, who is it, Mary Ann? Who's his engineer?
Mary Ann DePinto.
She's gonna have to put the flag back.
He said she did.
I'm
She
she's
did-
already
they're
had it.
there?
I was there when she did it, so. I
We went
thought
out there and
before-
looked. We walked along the back of the property and we couldn't find any, we found one flag.
It's not listed on the site plan.
Well, unless somebody's messing around.
Yeah, somebody's
with the
messing
lot,
with you.
Well, unless it
flags were
was
there.
far into the, where we were seeing wetland, we didn't
Yeah.
go that far down in,
Yeah.
you know?
But
Well,
I-
let's get some clarification, right? Did she flag it recently? Are all the flags out there? Let's get the plans submitted, the individual plans for each property with the flag shown on that one engineered set. Make sure that's, correct. I think there's some lot line revisions too. We'll make sure those plans are all set, has everything we need to see on them. Verify, can you verify with her that it's been flagged out there and then that can get looked at?
yeah, we can meet with her on the 6th if she's available.
Okay,
The 6th of September, we can do site visits.
It's my birthday. Make sure you bring a
I'm
cake.
not sure she's available. I think she did mention she would be out of state that
Well, we
day.
can go back out there, but we just, yeah, verify with her if she's got the flags out there.
Yeah.
That'll be the next step then, I guess.
All right, so that's continuation for 235 and 237
Well,
Podunk,
you can only do one at a time. 235.
235. So, agree to a continuation?
Oh, wait a minute.
Is there anyone in the public or on the public line that would like to comment on the notice of intent for 235 Podunk Road, DEP file number 300-1134? There is no one.
No one. So,
I'm okay with the continuation with the note that before we go back out there, I want
Yes.
concrete verification that we're not just showing up there to, once again, go on
yeah.
Little hunt in
a
the
little
woods?
hunt. I'm not going on a snipe hunt.
Okay.
I want to know where the flags are. So Eric Gaspar in favor of the continuation till the 15th.
Board Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor? David?
David Barnickel's in favor if there's a motion.
All right. So now 237, same deal. Which one do you think we were on?
235.
No, I mean, when we were out there, which one do you think we were on?
We're on both.
We walked down the one, yeah. Okay. So Dave, same thing, a continuation. It's the only way we can move forward. We need to have some flags to look at,
Okay,
all right?
Okay, anyone in the audience or the public line who'd like to comment on 237 Podunk Road, notice of intent, DEP file number 300-1138? No one who would like to comment?
Eric Gaspar in favor of the continuation for
David Barnickel in favor also.
Roy Bishop,
In favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. Thanks, Dave.
thank you.
Making up time.
Taking up time. Oh, look at it. We get this-
Yeah.
South Lad Road, right?
5 left.
9 is, yeah, you're right. 5 Lad Road, I'm sorry.
Okay, 5 Lad Road, notice of intent. This is a driveway expansion after the fact. DEP has not issued a file number. The applicant didn't meet the requirement for the legal ad deadline, so we have to continue this to the next meeting, to September 15th, our meeting that starts at 6 o'clock. They'll do a new legal ad.
All right,
Eric Gaspar in favor of the continuation to the 15th.
I'll second that.
We need a motion?
any discussion at all? David? All in
No
favor?
discussion.
Oh, we can't even open the public hearing without the.
Yeah.
Right, it's not really continued, I guess it's
Yeah.
postponed.
Postponed.
Postponed,
Postponed.
yeah.
All right,
So, right, no need for that.
all right. So now we are at Mass DOT. Request for determination of applicability for I-90. Vegetation management work.
Yep, so we do have Sarah on here from BSC Group representing Mass DOT.
Tell those guys to be quiet.
Sarah, if you'd like, I'll just start just quickly to say that we have proof of
Oh,
legal
no,
ad and a butter notification for the hearing. Oh, sorry, there's no butter notification requirements here. And we'll let you introduce the project.
Absolutely, thank you. So my name is Sarah Kreisel. I'm here from the BSC Group representing the applicant Mass DOT, as you just said. I served as ecological project manager for the project, and I'm here with Hung Pham, who is project manager for Mass DOT, and Tracy Capilati from the district engineer for MassDOT. The proposed work is associated with roadway resurfacing, maintenance, and vegetation management for road safety maintenance along the Mass Pike from the municipal boundary with Charlton to approximately 1 mile west at the I-90 interchange with I-84 in Sturbridge. It's part of a larger contract and effort that extends into Auburn, and similar applications are being filed, concurrently with Charlton, Oxford, and Auburn. However, the subject of this RDA is only for work within the Sturbridge town boundary, and Mass DOT is seeking a negative determination for it. The majority of the proposed work associated with the project includes pavement milling and resurfacing, adjusting and cleaning out drainage structures, and replacing substandard guardrail. These are all considered minor activities within the buffer zone or riverfront area and are not subject to regulation under the Wetland Protection Act per 310 CMR 1002 2B1 and 2P. The median and side slopes of I-90 have been managed over the years by cutting vegetation to maintain clear guardrails, signs, and guardrails, signs, and lines of sight for motorists. This maintenance work is necessary within the state highway layout in order to provide vehicular safety for the motoring public. All proposed work will take place within the Shiloh, within that state highway layout, but does extend off the edge of the paved roadway. In addition, some of the proposed vegetation management work required to maintain road safety is not subject to regulation under the Wetland Protection Act. If it will occur only in the buffer zone and or riverfront area, per 310 CMR 1002 2B 2N, and within 6 feet of the guardrail. Therefore, the RDA before you is for the maintenance of vegetation within jurisdictional resource areas such as BLSF and BVW, and for vegetation management that's beyond the distance limits of the Wetland Protection Act minor activities. The vegetation work will occur within previously managed areas along the I-84 ramps and I-90 within the state highway layout, right-of-way side slopes. All vegetation clearing will occur within previously disturbed areas within 40 feet off of the edge of pavement in areas where no guardrail is present. Where guardrail is present, it'll only be cleared 20 feet back, and along the ramps, vegetation will be cleared approximately 15 feet from the edge of pavement. Cutting will be either by hand or mechanical means using a brush hog or similar machinery, and the vegetation will either be chipped or ground and spread appropriately on site, outside of wetlands, and in locations directed by the MassDOT resident engineer or properly disposed of off-site. Proposed vegetation management work will likely occur within the riverfront area and 100-foot buffer zone to BVW and Bank, BVW itself, and BLSF. Any tree or brush removal in jurisdictional wetland resource areas will occur by hand or other method that avoids ground disturbance entirely. Work is proposed within previously maintained areas along the highway and is not expected to adversely impact wetland resource areas. The contractor will employ appropriate BMPs and best management practices to avoid or minimize impacts to resource areas, including the use of appropriate erosion sedimentation controls near jurisdictional areas at the discretion of Mass DOT. And with that, be happy to answer any questions.
All right, Becky?
Thank you, Sarah. Sarah went over the project for you here. There's certain parts that are exempt, some things that aren't exempt, looking at, BVW, borderland subject to flooding. Within those areas, all that work is, like she said, proposed within previously maintained areas that they've been maintaining vegetation for years along the highway. Therefore, I don't see any concerns. I'd recommend moving forward with approval through the determination. -3 with conditions for the non-exempt veg management part of this. I'd recommend we ask for prior notification to work, contractor training for work and resource areas from DOT environmental staff or BSC staff, oversight for work and resource areas, and then just post-work reporting, documenting the work in the resource areas and any alteration to the board. And just as I said before, there's no earthwork, so no stump or root removal. Also a negative number 5, and then a negative number 5 citing the exemptions under the state act, and then a positive 2B, no resource area approval with this determination.
All right. Any discussion?
Nothing from me.
Roy? Not for me. David? Seeing none. Audience?
Anyone on the public line that would like to speak on the request for determination of applicability for the I-90 resurfacing and veg management work?
Motion to close the public hearing.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Board Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor? David?
Yes, I said David
Oh, I'm
Barnacle
sorry,
in
I
favor.
didn't hear it. Okay.
So with regards to the vegetation and resurfacing work for I-90, I make a motion that we issue a determination of a -3 with the agent's conditions and notes, a negative number 5, a second negative number 5, and then a positive 2B.
I'll second that.
All right. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
I have one question for Sarah.
Go ahead.
Sarah, how many times have you given that speech?
That was the first time.
Well, you did very well. Thank you. No real
Good job.
discussion, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Board Bishop
Roy-
in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor? David?
David went first.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks for everyone else coming on too.
Yeah. All right, we're at 6. What? 698 Main Street, continued NRAD, abbreviated notice of resource delineation. DEP file number 300-1133. Okay.
Oh, so, all right, I'll just start. This is a continuation from the last meeting. We did ask for peer review for the wetland delineation out there. We did get that moving forward, since that last hearing. Our Alan of Ecotech was selected to do that. He did, go out there last week with myself, and Mr. Grabowski was present for a portion of that time. He did submit, he didn't have time to submit his report in, but he did provide some email correspondence, which I had sent along. One of the things that we wanted him to look at was between the A and the B series, bordering vegetated wetlands, that there was a hydraulic connection between there. So that was reviewed out there. There was a connection found. They did talk about it, flagged it. That is going to be picked up and added to the plan, so they're aware of that. He did find that on the topographic maps it showed an intermittent stream that came down off the adjacent property, down through the adjacent property. That actually historically has been altered, and that is part of what that wetland system that we're seeing in the middle of 698 Main Street, that is what that is, going through there. So there's no adjacent resource areas on that property, which was a question. So Art was able to rule that out. He also did walk the entirety of 698 Main Street and had no concerns that there was resource areas in the back. It was unclear if we were being asked to do that at the time, because there was no topography shown back there or anything else. But he was there, he did walk it, he didn't see anything else. So at this time, I'm going to recommend a continuation while the engineer works on getting those revised plans over. And once we get those, we'll get those back out to Art, make sure it clearly depicts what we had seen on site for the change, and then you can move forward with approval for that, for the resource area delineation. And it's my understanding that they're working on the notice of intent application for the development, which should be getting submitted soon, is my understanding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything's good. Thank you.
Comments? Roy?
Dave, do you have any comments?
Dave?
David? Any comments? No.
I have no comments.
So, continuation?
Well, we got
What?
anyone in the public want to comment?
We're here for the disturbance who are the abutters, and
Sorry, you got to use the microphone up there because we're recording it. Sorry. Just state your name. I'm sorry.
Jean Sullivan, and we're here because the abutters are in Europe. So their big concern was whether or not there's any streams going towards their property, and perhaps going into Long Pond and onto the Quinnebog. And that was their biggest concern. They didn't know if they thought if there was going to be more study on that.
So the only review that's being done right now is what's for resource areas on their property, or what might be immediately adjacent, which could project one of those jurisdictional buffer zones on their property. We do know that there is, in the middle of this property, there is a stream that comes through and does come down, what is that, east to west, and then does enter, I think, the highway kind of drainage system there that then goes across the street towards the reservoir on that side. It does, right, it doesn't, it goes across the street, but there's nothing that appears from this property that leads onto that adjacent property. Is that correct?
If I could,
Yeah.
part of the gas line, it does goes onto that gas line property. We do know that the people that are in Europe did delineate their wetlands. We saw the flags, so it's recent, so they know what's wetlands, what are wetlands, both bordering this property that we're discussing and their property. And there's historic flows in the direction of the adjacent property. They're historic. And I'm
just
sure
gonna-
they're aware of it because they have flagged their own property.
I'm just gonna pull up the plan real quick. I think we can answer that question. So, right. Okay, that is
Exactly.
their property there. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So right here is their property. So this wetland system, right here's
Correct.
Main Street.
Right.
The wetland system comes down
Mhm.
to these wetlands here.
Mm-hmm.
And these wetlands go into the drainage systems, my understanding, across the street. So the extent of how far the wetland goes over here, that isn't being reviewed or anything, but right, if that wetland is connected to this one, which this discharges here. And just, like, we don't have the development plan in front of us yet.
It's more about the number of tows they do with cars that might be leaking gas or from accidents, and that was their.
Yeah, yes, I understand,
So
yeah.
that's to be done later.
Yes, yeah, this is just the wetland delineation, so.
If I could put the word to it, you're right, it is not the development plan. This is just for the wetland line.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
They'll receive another notification when the notice of intent is filed. Yeah. And if they have any questions, they can contact our office, and I'm happy to talk to them about that.
All right,
too.
so we're looking at a continuation
Yep,
here?
We-
yep.
All right,
We request that.
yep.
September 15th?
Thank you, ma'am.
All in favor of a continuation to
9:15.
September 15th?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor?
David Barnick in favor.
All right, we are now on to 150 Charlton Road. Continued NOI development of a
Thank you.
light industrial building and supported infrastructure. DEP file number 300-1115.
Yes, yeah.
If you're gonna speak, you should come up, one of you.
Okay, I sit next to you.
I did shower, well, I think. I'm kidding.
Earlier in the
Want me to give
Earlier
a
in the week, exactly.
summary here? Where
Yes, please.
Okay, let me
I
just.
mean, your chair.
All right, so this is just, ooh, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit. There we go. All right, so this hearing is a continuation. Let me get to my notes. All right, so we had a project that was being reviewed here. It went through some significant changes. The property owners are continuing with getting approval for a light industrial use here. This is zoned industrial. They came back with a revised plan. We did send that to peer review. Peer review did provide comments. I did give you, he was on vacation at the end of last week, so it came in early this week. I did give you a hard copy of that here for you to look at, as it wasn't with your packet. So peer review said that most of all of their comments have been addressed at this time, and there was a couple things in here that they thought were fine to be left to be conditioned through the permit, which I do agree with them. The biggest one really is looking at the DOT stormwater runoff coming from Route 20 there and making sure that's addressed. We want to make sure that stormwater doesn't come off Route 20, go into their project site, and overload the system. So I understand they still have to work with DOT after they go through approval process through the town for their curb cut, correct? Is that right? So that's something that we can have that in there to make sure that there's something, making, whatever, a condition as he wrote in there. So I did have additional couple comments about that too, which I included in my notes for you. Let me find where that one is. Yeah, I would just make sure there was a request from the engineer that they were asking, stated that Mass DOT, they wanted us to add a condition that stated that Mass DOT may make changes to the access to Route 20 and request that a condition be allowed to allow so for public safety. A general condition is always added. Any type of change has to come back to the board to see, is this a minor change? Does it need an amendment, et cetera? So, things like that can go through, but they can't add any blanket condition. Once you change that limit, Glenn knows, you change that limit of work line, it changes your permit in a sense. So less alterations, the better. Sometimes if it's minor things, you can get an amendment for that, but if you're, increasing and adding more work near a resource area, DEP even says you can't. You got to get a new permit when you get closer to resource area. So hopefully there won't be any significant concerns with Mass DOT that change your entrance going in, but they can't add a general condition that where like the limit of work line changes. That would be against the laws, in a sense. So I think there can be flexibility with what is asked for with the condition that CMG says they can allow in there. But if DOT says, hey, we want this 20 feet wider, then that's going to change your permit. And Glenn can explain that a little bit more too. I don't see that probably being an issue here, but I just wanted to add that in there. We did ask peer review. We talked about the lighting here before. They did confirm they thought it was the dark sky compliant. Happy to see that on there. The question about the estimated O&M budget, think that's something that we can add in the permit. It's understandable that you don't have someone moving forward on the site tomorrow, that you don't know what that's going to be. That can be a conditional approval prior to start of work. We get that in. That's not a problem. We've done things like that in the past, so I don't see any concerns with that. Water and sewer, we did send the revised plan back out. They did have some comments for you. I do have them in the detailed agenda. I mean, it's not necessarily relevant for us. I can, take a couple minutes and read them all if you want, or, Glenn has them. They have some questions about fire lines, things like that. Things just for you to keep in mind with your projects and some coordination with them. Building department also had some comments, just saying that a site plan needs to be reviewed. He includes some information about zoning and building needs that need to be met, all things that you can work out with them down the road. It has nothing that will affect us as well. Planning comments, the proposed layout appears to comply with zoning requirements. However, the project will require a full site plan review and traffic analysis, things I'm sure you're probably aware of. Nothing that's going to impact their ability to move forward with your project at this time. One other thing to note, that enforcement order, we talked about it, we had the site visit out there, that's still open, and I think that's fine. We'll do some monitoring of the vegetation out there for a little while, that the restoration that was done on site. The one thing I'd note though is we noticed that area where we had the trench is still kind of open. A little loam and seed on that might not be a bad idea, because isn't it channelizing down that way? That's part of the issue. Maybe that would help with some of that channelization. So I think that's separate from this permit, but something that can be done as part of the enforcement. I think that would go a long way once, we had a lot of that rain last year, and it was really just kind of following that pathway down. We want to kind of stop that, I think. The only other thing, and I've mentioned this on site and I've mentioned it before, I do think that a stockade style fence around the development is advisable. We're adjacent to riverfront area, we're close to that isolated wetland, and we're within the buffer zone. We don't know what the intended use is going to be here down the road. I know you're raised up, and we talked about headlights. Maybe they're not as much of a concern in the immediate vicinity there, but it's also sound and impacts to wildlife habitat here. So, and especially when you're looking at a buffer zone project, those are the things you're thinking about.
Excuse me.
And under the...
May I comment on that, please?
Can I finish?
Let her finish.
Is that okay? Yeah,
Write your note and then comment.
Yeah, I just want to say, in our Sturbridge Wetland bylaw regulations, section, our bylaw section regulations, there's 365-1.1D. It does talk about activities. So activities undertaken in close proximity to wetlands and other resource areas have a high likelihood of adverse impact upon wetland and other resource areas. Either immediately or as a consequence of construction over time and as a consequence of daily operation or other activities. These adverse impacts from construction and use can include, but are not limited to, erosion, siltation, loss of groundwater recharge, disruption of hydrologic connections, nutrient runoff, etc. I'll skip that. Harm to wildlife habitat, or disruption of wildlife habitat corridors. The commission therefore may require that the applicant maintain a continuous strip undisturbed vegetative cover in part or all of the 200-foot area or set other conditions on this area unless the applicant provides evidence deemed sufficient by the commission that the area or part won't be disturbed or the values won't be harmed. I do think that because that is an open meadow area. Currently, we have wet meadow. We've got the riverfront area. I've been on that back property where the solar panels are. There's a lot of wildlife there. I think that's, having that use being brought back down in there can impact that. So it's up to the board how they feel about it. But my recommendation, I think, between the guardrail and before the top of the slope there, that a stockade kind of style fence is there, which will limit and help limit that disruption to the wildlife habitat in the area. So that's just my recommendation for the board. Otherwise, I think everything's been covered. They've really pulled back. The closest work we have here is where the isolated wetland is, where they're outside the 25-foot, but they're keeping their structure, their roadway out of the 50-foot, but they have some grading here. So really looking at kind of the 50-foot here. We're right at the 200-foot riparian here, but they're showing their limit a work line at it. So I guess work's not within that area. Otherwise, resource area is set back a little bit further from here. So I think they've done a good job. They've addressed the engineering concerns. So it's just a matter of how the commission feels about if there's going to be some disruption to kind of wildlife behaviors for the habitat in that area. So one other comment, I think the fence would help too. You guys do show snow storage in this area on the other plan, but it would help with eliminating the potential for snow to be pushed off where it needs to be maintained and go through the stormwater system. So that's just all my notes for the board.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make a few comments, okay? I've been in this business for 50 years, and I can't believe the time and the expense we've gone through. I mean, 75% probably is Procon, but we picked it up from there. And our bills since we picked it up are getting nearing $25,000 to $30,000, okay? All we wanted, we said, we were into it, our Procon was into it. We've owned this property for 37 years, and we maintained it. Then, of course, this last round, you can't mow the grass anymore, all right? I think anybody at home, if you're watching this, this is a good example of how you've lost your rights if you own land, okay? Maybe my partners think I'm a little tough but I look at this. I've dealt with international companies, and I see this is why the Chinese are kicking us to death, and they're taking our technology and they're taking everything, because when it takes 2 years to do a simple project like this, it's absurd, okay? That being said, this is very similar to projects I did right up the road, load control. Years ago, I bought the Sign Right building, it's Sturbridge Metallurgical. You got the propane company. This is what we're looking at here, a very small use. I mean, no one's there on weekends. There's not a lot of infrastructure use. There's no traffic on weekends, most likely. We pulled everything out of the 200-foot, out of the river zone, okay? And then to come back, and one more thing, more peer review. You get tired of writing checks, okay? Now, I'm going to give you an example. Years ago...
I think we can do without examples.
Well, no, hey, you've dragged me through here. You've made me spend some money. Let me get my 5 cents worth in.
You've had it. I gave you 5 cents.
The rest of the board feel, okay, do you treat everybody the same when they come before you?
Of course we do.
Okay, you treat everybody the same, so everybody goes to this extent of work.
I can't make a comparison to how you've operated and how you've come before us, but the answer is yes. We have people come in, one time, bing, bang, boom.
Have you had any prejudice against this project, the project before?
No.
No. So everybody goes through this amount of peer review and this amount of work?
I can't tell you what you think you've gone through.
Okay.
Okay? But as far as my sitting and looking at it, when it's come before me, these moves were made and they're clean. It looks like we're going to move forward with the project. We walked out there and in Upland, had an engineer go down to his waist. Ask Glenn.
I don't think he went down to his waist. We stood there the other day.
8 of us stood in the same place last,
Yeah, well, I was there, so I saw it. So I'm not going to,
The ground was harder than.
yeah,
I
right.
guess I would only say is that,
Look,
just to add here, the original project that came in here was a much larger area. There's a lot of resource area here. We know we have riverfront under not just Sturbridge laws, but the state laws. That's a resource area. So where the project started, and the peer reviews were only engineering that we've had since the notice of intent has come in, and there was multiple ones because comments weren't being addressed. So that took a little bit. The original applicant moved away, you move forward, we've got your new plan. It went back to peer review for engineering, which is typical. Every commercial project that comes in has an engineer peer review on it. He looked at it, he provided comments. You know, we have to make sure those comments are satisfied to meet the state standards, and I think that you've done that here. I think that.
So will we get approval tonight?
Well, that's up for the board. They have to provide some comment here. They haven't really had the opportunity to talk yet. We've just kind of given the overview where things stand. I give my recommendations. I think that you're at a point where it's fine. I think that because we have an industrial use, we don't know what it is, and it's a significant wildlife area with riverfront and these wetlands here, my recommendation would just be to add a fence. It's up to them how they want to decide, and that's the next step.
Okay, excuse me, why do you keep saying riverfront when we've taken everything back out of the riverfront?
You have riverfront on the site, right?
I know,
You're in
but,
buffer
but,
zone.
but,
Come
but
on.
our new work is not in the riverfront.
all right, Eric, you're up.
So, with all due respect, I think we've been very generous in how we've dealt with this, because it would have been well within our rights to say, we're gonna stop the project when the original applicant pulled out and said, we're gonna start this process again. So, has this been going on for 2 years? Yes, but we also had a very, very, very different, more in fact impactful project that was brought in front of us. I don't think there's anybody, maybe save Mr. Gunn, that would say that I have ever dealt unfairly with anyone. And I would disagree with Mr. Gunn. However, I won't stand here and be accused of being unfair and not applying the standards appropriately. And I have had some issues with this site, and because I was on site when did he go to his waist? No, but he went up over his knee, and he was a 185-pound man. I'm a 300-pound man, and I would have gone up to my waist without question. So to have questions, I'm a logical thinker, and that happened after there was a previous violation that needed to be repaired and needed to be cured. It was cured, and then the site performed differently. So as a non-scientist, I had to ask some questions. So I apologize if my inquisitive nature in wanting to make sure that I could get good with this project caused any harm or consternation, but it's my job to make sure that if I'm going to vote on something, that I understand it, right? I want to make sure that we are protecting the wetlands and that we're working fair and amicably, and that everybody feels like they're being dealt with in a reasonable way, and we have mutual respect.
All right, Eric.
So,
Let's go
anyway.
to- can we go to the site?
The only thing that I will say is, if we had a an idea of what the purpose of this land and who was going in there and what business was, I might be a little bit less okay with putting the stipulation for the stockade fence, but given that we don't know, I'd appreciate having the stockade fence. So, anyway, I will get off my soapbox.
No, like what Eric said.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the project as it is, with the stockade fence. David?
No questions.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
could you just tell me what the stockade fence is gonna do?
It's gonna provide a barrier, a visual barrier, and it's gonna help with sound.
With 24,000 cars a day going down Route 20 and probably 30,000 going down the turnpike, this fence is
Well,
necessary.
there's a tree line
You don't-
along the road there. In the back area is a big area that's being utilized. I mean, that area is gonna be
Go
utilized.
to the public.
Yeah, go to the public.
All right. Is there anyone on the public line or in the room that would like to speak on the 150 Charlton Road continued notice of intent? Don't hear anyone.
Hearing none?
There's only one thing from me.
Yep. Oh, sorry.
What?
I did have my hand up before the public line. It was just one small.
Oh, no problem.
Just on a point of error, you probably wouldn't have gone any deeper on that because that was the bottom of the trench. That was the original soil. I'm just making a point. The original bottom of the trench, Eric. So that was all loose material that was saturated. And so there was we only cut down about 1.5 feet when we took the trench and the pea stone out. So there was an original solidified or harder material. Everything above that was saturated. We had just put it in there. So I think he bottomed out is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that, and I call balls and strikes, and I tend to be fair. I'm just saying. So
I've been in swamps where I can go up to here, but that's all. It was a small point, very small point.
Close the public hearing.
All right. Motion to close the public hearing?
No. Are you set to?
May I make a comment?
What?
Are you looking for a revision to include,
What?
are you looking for a revision to the plan or no? 'Cause
Do you want to put it on a revision? Is that what you'd like to do?
The stockade fence
I would put that on a revised plan, yes, if you
Okay,
want it.
all right.
You can't
So we'll hold
condition
it.
it, it has to go on to
I don't know why we would do that.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Lucilla is trying to have your attention.
Oh,
Did he say?
Hi, my name is
there's
Mika
somebody
Vasu.
on
There's someone
the
on.
line trying to talk.
Who are they?
Sorry,
Oh,
sir.
This is the summit engineer.
Oh, that's right.
All right.
If I may make a suggestion regarding the fence. As we walk the property, that is an open meadow. I can conceivably, the argument with the commission about providing a fence in the area that is wooded from the edge of the meadow towards Route 20 and not providing a fence in the open meadow area. Because now that fence will be adding additional shading into that area that didn't previously exist.
Well, the fence would be on the top behind the guardrail before the slope going down to the meadow. So that's where it would be, up in that area.
Approximately the first 100 or so feet, 100 to the existing tree line. Is that what you're suggesting? My suggestion is you don't need that much fence. You need the fence only where you're removing tree line.
I would recommend, not knowing what the eventual use is, that it goes down and follows that line down to the back of the property line. That would be my recommendation, but
One more, Glenn?
Well, yes, eventually, because we're not gonna mow it anymore. It's already starting to grow with, that won't be a meadow in about 4 or 5 years. It's gonna turn successional. You're gonna eventually have gray birch, and in fact, right now, there's there's bushes growing up in it now. As soon as we stop mowing it, it will turn eventually, again, succession, saplings, and then trees. It won't be a wet meadow that long. Just like fields turn, it's gonna turn.
All right.
Excuse me, can I make one more suggestion about the fence? If the worry is who's gonna be in there, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, when the final building permit is signed off, the board has, they sign off as well for a certificate of compliance.
Not always.
But you do sign off a certificate of compliance.
It's not required by state law, so.
Occupancy.
Our certificate of compliance, but not a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, all right, I know, the only thing I was gonna say is, if the fear is what is going in there, if it needs a fence, why don't we address it at that time?
You want to add a condition?
No,
Okay.
we're just gonna do it.
Okay, so anybody who
They could
does
come-
this in the future, they're gonna put up a fence, not just us.
If it's in the order.
Right.
Well, you know, you should treat everybody the same, so everybody should have a fence now.
Could it be amended based on use?
We're dealing with one piece of property here, let's
Right.
just deal with it
Okay.
and go forward.
I'm just asking the question.
Yep.
Come back within a plan, you could have, we could discuss with your project team, maybe if there's a way of recommending and adding a condition about that with the potential future use, and they might consider that, I would say. If you wanted to bring something forward, maybe they'd consider that.
You, close the public hearing?
Already made the motion. Roy already seconded, right?
But we don't know where the fence is gonna be, so I think that you just have it shown on the plan, come back with
Are
that.
you
and
willing
make
to
sure
take
it's
a
what you're looking
continuation?
for, with a detail.
Give them the 2
Why-
weeks
why-
and put it on the field.
Why don't you, either that or put it in the order of conditions, the fence
They
is
don't
gonna
know
be
where it's
70
gonna
feet.
be. Her
Put it on
point
the
was
plan.
that they don't know where it's gonna be. So, yes, it would be 2 weeks, and my recommendation is, and I hate to say it, but put it on the plan. Then, if they're gonna require it, if there's an appeal, that's that's what your choice might be. But put it on the plan, if that's the last thing they want at that point, put it on the plan. If they can accept that, and we could, the engineers there, we can get it done fairly quickly. What's that?
What if the person that rents the building wants some exposure to Route 20?
Not talking
Oh,
about
it's
the
not
Route
gonna
20
close
side.
off the Route 20 part. It's gonna be to the left as you're going in, so.
And
You're
how
still-
far would this fence extend? Would it start from the right-of-way line to that isolated wetland, or would it continue all the way to the rear property line?
She was talking about the whole thing.
So I guess my recommendation is, I wouldn't put it up here, in the right-of-way area for sightline issues. You could start somewhere
Obviously.
around
Obviously.
here, maybe. You know what I mean? Figure out what you need for sightline, and then just come down back here, just to block this area. There's no need for it in the back. I think it's just that,
Let's move this thing.
somewhere in
Let's
that area.
move this thing. To move it, if I could, through the chair, to move it, to give them the fence, show it where it is, and then it sounds like a close. So do it after, do that,
We can work to have a draft permit and get that issued
the next
right after the
meeting.
next meeting. Yep.
We can't, we can't condition that?
I think it should be in the detail on the plan and make sure it's,
All right, well, let's see. I would think that it's pretty obvious where it needs to go, so if it's conditioned with, and we can agree, I would be open to moving it, but that's just one vote.
We can always issue a revision, but it seems simple enough that it can be described verbally on a, that's just my thought.
I don't have conditions written for
yeah.
you.
What?
I don't have special conditions written for you for
Yeah.
this unless you want to
We're
state
not-
them right now. You need to have those.
Through the chairman, it could be just a simple thing as we just put the fence around the Millbrook distributors in Leicester at 100,000. I just permitted that, and it was 2 feet off the asphalt, period, all the way around the whole thing, because it's now marijuana, they don't want anybody breaking in and stealing their weed. So the point is, it's not too hard to show where a fence is, because you're generally just off the asphalt by 2 or 3 feet at the top of the slope. They don't put it down at the bottom, it'd be cut and dry, so I think it could be, just speaking with Eric, conditioned that with the engineer on board here, that it could be the 2 to 3 feet or 4 off the asphalt, and that's generally where you would see a fence. We're not gonna put it on the side of the slope or at the bottom of the slope.
Behind the guardrail.
All right,
Right.
we need a
behind the
continuation here,
guardrail.
Glenn.
Okay, that's your decision.
All right? No, it's your decision.
Well,
You can have a vote if you
we're
want it.
not gonna look at a negative and get a denial over a fence.
Okay,
So,
all right.
serious.
Motion to Approve?
Continue.
Eric?
Continuation.
Continuation?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
I'll second that.
Get it done. Give it to him, get out of here.
David?
Can't vote for it, I don't know what the motion is.
Continuation to the next meeting, the 15th.
David Monaco in favor.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you.
time. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Might be for this one. There's someone
Did you get that email I sent late to you?
No.
Okay.
Tonight?
With the color, just the colored buffers.
No, and I don't have email on this
Oh.
laptop either.
Okay, sorry about that.
Somebody's friend there?
I don't know. All right.
Do you want to read the?
Yes, I do. All right, Lot
Made up
3,
a lot of time. We are behind, but we made up a lot of time tonight.
20 Fisk Hill
For that last
Road
hearing.
and 30 Main Street. Yeah, we are. Future road named Berry Farm, continued NOI, construction of a 71-lot manufactured housing community, DEP file number 300-1132. All right. You're on?
Thank you very much. Brian Madden from LEC Environmental. Do you mind putting up the, that C14? Thanks. Or sheet 14. So based on the feedback we got at the last meeting, we've made a series of additional updates. I'm just going to walk everyone through it. I had submitted I think, 4-page letter that summarized the updates and provided a analysis of meeting the performance standards under the bylaw. And I'll just wait until it gets pulled up. All right, excellent. Thanks so much. So again, area of interest between the two vernal pools to the west. This is the southerly A series vernal pool, and then the E series vernal pool to the east. The revised plan sheet before you now incorporates elimination of 3 house lots, 2 on the west side and 1 on the east side to minimize the disturbance within that 200-foot vernal pool buffer zone and to increase the habitat corridor connection between these two areas. The crossing structure itself has been updated, expanded from a 2x2 tunnel to a 5x3 foot tall crossing structure that will be, again, graded at the top to allow for sunlight penetration and moisture to enter the crossing structure itself. There will be retaining walls right here in this location on both sides, just along the roadway. At the max height on the west side, the down gradient side, that will be 4 feet tall, but it will taper down on both sides, and that will allow for larger wildlife like white-tailed deer to cross over the roadway and smaller wildlife to cross through the tunnel. We've eliminated the side retaining walls along this portion of the limit of work. Based on the comments we got at the last meeting, we are proposing to revegetate side slopes to hopefully avoid that cage type feel for the habitat corridor, so it's more naturalized. We've provided some minimal updates to the structure locations and footprints on these abutting lots. The 5 or 6 lots highlighted in red there to basically compact the limits of work. We've updated some of the stormwater management in between these lots to make that all work. I will say that we are preparing the final definitive plan sheets for the full packet, so that will be available hopefully at the next meeting. But we wanted to give you this individual sheet for your comments and review at this point. Let's see. So that basically summarizes the updates in this location. If you don't mind switching to the open space plan. So what we're able to do is provide a much expanded open space that has been a point of discussion, and we've now gotten to the point where we've been able to provide a little bit more detail on what that's going to look like. The open space itself is blue in this area. And we were able to extend the open space onto Lot 4. That's off-site, but we have commitments from the property owner for that lot that we are able to put the restriction over that portion, basically including the entirety of the A-series wetland and 100-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool. Again, we have the southerly vernal pool in the A-series here, and then the northerly one, which is part of like the stream type system up in this location. Cumulatively on Lot 4, it's 8.5 acres. The entirety of the blue area is 25 acres. 19 acres of which is upland, 6 acres is wetland. Will provide a significant expansion of protected habitat, specifically in the 200-foot buffer zone for the vernal pools. The landowner has begun discussions with the state on donating the back piece. That's outside of our control, but that process has started. What we are able to commit to is a conservation easement on the 8.5 acres on Lot 4, in addition to what we've already proposed on site. I don't know if you could pull up my letter with the table. I'm just going to talk through that a little bit as well. Thanks. So ultimately, the letter that we provided goes through the performance standards for work in the 200-foot buffer zone to the vernal pool, with the ultimate conclusion or a performance standard to analyze is, will the project in the buffer zone result in an adverse effect on the vernal pools themselves or the buffer zone? In other words, is the work activity going to impair the buffer zone's ability to provide wildlife habitat functions related to the vernal pool? We've gone through an exhaustive summary of that. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions on what we submitted, but this just gives a breakdown of the impacts within that 200-foot buffer zone in relation to ultimately what is being protected. This is total VP buffer protected, but it is also undisturbed areas. This column right here totals 11.02 acres. That's the sum total of what is being protected in the open space within the vernal pool buffer zone. This is the areas of temporary alteration where those side slopes we are proposing to revegetate. Here's the minimal amount of lawn within the 200-foot rain gardens and impervious structure, which I gave percentages in relation to what's protected. So you can see these numbers are relatively de minimis in the grand scheme of things. And so these are the total. These numbers, when you add up these 4 rows, they total this number. So cumulatively, again, we are protecting 11.02 acres within the 200-foot buffer zone. Our proposed disturbance, permanent disturbance, including rain garden areas and the revegetation, totals 8.5% in relation to the protected buffer areas. From where we started initially, we've reduced disturbances in that area by greater than half. twofold. And so we feel that the proposed project has been designed to avoid those adverse impacts within the buffer zone and its ability to provide wildlife habitat functions and adequately serve to protect the vernal pools themselves. And we'd appreciate any feedback from the commission on the updates. And again, we are endeavoring to provide the full plan set and then get the final peer review from the planning peer review.
All right.
I don't know if Justin has anything to add, or would turn over to
I mean,
questions.
just maybe the one thing on lot 4, the 8.5 acres. I know in Brian's report it was plus or minus. The reason it's plus or minus is because Matt is actively working with the state for the donation of that backland. Matt has told me and has committed to whatever that portion ends up being, his conservation restriction or easement on lot 4 will connect into that backland, making sure that there is that continuous corridor through the whole A-series of where the vernal pools and the wetlands are, and create that protected habitat right out to the land in the back that will be donated.
Exactly. So it's this back edge is going to connect in some capacity based on the discussions with the town, or the state rather. So, this is what we're able to commit to. But this back boundary may slide a little bit. So it connects directly to what the state's going to acquire.
That might help you with seeing if they'll hold the CR on this property, if it's connected to their property too.
That was going to be actually one question that I had. So how you go about doing a restriction or easement in the town of Sturbridge. In other towns, what we've done is once we have acquired the land, we actually give an easement and record that with a plan to the town. And within that easement, there's restrictions on what the land can be used for. It basically says it can be used for the use and enjoyment of the residents of the development and nothing else. So that was something that, I probably won't get solved tonight, but how do we work through that whole process? How does it work in the town of Sturbridge?
So do you want me to answer that, or start to answer that?
Sure, you go ahead and answer it.
So typically it'd be a formal CR, conservation restriction. Obviously, it wouldn't be, everything wouldn't have to be worked up before you get your permit, except for where it would be.
Yep.
That could be a condition, who's gonna hold it in the language, but there would be a condition that it would have to be approvable by the Conservation Commission. Typically, we follow the state standard through the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. But as far as, it would say you'd have to find someone to hold the conservation restriction too.
Right. Okay. We've used Opacum for a lot of stuff, and we've used the state. Too.
You might have.
All stuff that we can work through or work, I
Yeah,
assume,
it's
with you, Becky,
adjacent.
a lot in with the board.
Yeah.
State, and it gives them road frontage off the cul-de-sac road to get on here. That might be something they'd see favorably. But right, it would be a condition prior to the start of work that's done. That's how that would typically be done.
At least finalized in concept, but not executed, because
I think,
it is.
well, I'd have to check with town council about that, but I think it would have to be executed. I think that's how they would recommend, but I have to check on that.
Yeah, and this may be jumping the gun on that subject, but, I guess we'd like to potentially pursue like a DR placeholder, just because the way the state's running these days, it's going to take.
That would have to go to town council, I think.
I've submitted CRs dating back to the fall, and I haven't heard boo on comments, and
Well, they have to be specific. They're very specific. as
Oh,
far
yeah,
as what
no,
they-
it's just, they're so backlogged
No,
these days.
I don't think they would entertain a CR where they're talking about, where your people are involved in, in it, on it.
Yeah, obviously, we'd have to find a willing participant there.
Yeah. Okay. Roy? What?
Roy or me?
Oh, I looked at you and said Roy. It's a Jedi mind trick.
We're so confused.
I want to thank you for addressing the comments. I'll speak on behalf of myself. I won't speak for Roy.
You're doing good so far.
But the one question I have is, just give me a feel for, like, if you want to have the plus, I'm good with the plus, but give me a feel for, you said plus or minus. How much potential minus are we talking about of that 8+? plus acres.
It would only go minus, I believe, based off of what we're showing here, if what Matt ends up donating, or what the state asks for, because obviously they have to approve it all, shifts more, I guess, towards the Matt's cul-de-sac road. Then it would become minus. Matt, what's shown on this plan as far as following the 100-foot vernal pool buffer in the wetlands buffer, Matt has committed to this, he's seen this, he has said, I am good with all of this. So it most likely would only get bigger, all depending on where that final donation line falls. Because we didn't have that final donation line, we just kind of carried it out and tied it into that other piece of land. It's kind of northeast, which is town-owned land right now.
Yeah, I would just say that everything you see here in blue is going to be permanent open space protected. You know, where it transitions from CR to state land is, that could slide a little bit, but it's still going to be all protected at the end of the day.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you.
All right. Roy?
Eric. Eric.
Eric.
So again, I'm going to echo Eric, what he said about giving up those 3 lots. Good work. I think that answers the mail from my perspective.
Excellent. And what I didn't say, and it's included in the letter, is so we are avoiding all intrusion into the 200-foot vernal pool buffer on the east side with the revisions. Thank you.
All right, that's it for you guys?
That's it.
All right. Not to be answered tonight, but I'm going to give you guys some input.
Appreciate it.
First of all, you can't give me a wetland. I own them. Okay, so don't give me any of that crap, all right, right off the bat. I own the wetlands, and I own the buffer zone around them. So, you know, that's it. All right, so that's the first thing. As far as rain gardens are concerned, I need to see, I see things like rain gardens cannot be built on slopes. Rain gardens need pervious soil. You guys don't have flat hills and you don't have pervious soil. So you're talking about something that, you know, I'm just reading, that's all I'm doing. I don't know anything about it. But those are things that make, so you need pervious, you know, they need to be 10 feet. Rain gardens need to be 10 feet from foundations.
So,
as a general rule. What about winter? What happens in the winter? You know, around here we get ice and snow, and then we get torrential rain in March, as you know. How is that going to work? No, you know, we can't allow you to change the flow patterns. You know that. The letter on sewer and water, you have to go to our selectmen and tell them to give you a letter saying they're going to spend the money on sewer and water for you, because we're not buying. This is a town vote here for sewer and water, and as far as I'm not trying, that's why you have to go to them. I'm not trying to muddy the issue, but as far as I'm concerned, right now you don't have sewer and water. You know, they'll need a 2/3 vote for capital to do it. Now, they just bought the land on 131 on the way in for a pump station. I'm not questioning, but I'm not going to approve this personally without assurance that you guys have sewer and water, because it doesn't, you know. And that letter is it may be valid, but it would be in court for years before it, if the people in Sturbridge decide that they don't want it. What else? Open space needs to be deeded and permanent. That, you know, giving us a conservation easement on your project is, you know, is fine, but it doesn't. We're interested in open space to protect it. And 71 lots, down to now 68. you know, for a hillside like that with no pervious soil on it, or very little pervious soil on it, you need more space in order to make this thing work so that we don't end up with flooding every spring. I can't see it any other way. Rain gardens, you know, they're great, but this is, I don't know that rain gardens are a solution for this project. Standing water in the rain gardens becomes an ugly deal, and people don't like it next to their house, so what do? That's about it. That's what you know. So, think about those things and anything you can do along those lines.
Yeah, could we?
Matt's very generous, but he hasn't given me any money.
Could we, through you possibly, get those comments to the stormwater peer reviewer so they can certainly weigh in? Because, you know, we can certainly opine on those issues.
Yeah.
I think it'd benefit of having that third party provide some of
That's
that
a good point.
feedback.
Yeah.
We'll take Ed's direct comments and we'll get those over to John.
Yeah,
Shelton.
he's right, though. I'm kind of, I wasn't back-ending it, but that's the way it came up.
Yeah, and I think if it goes through Becky, we're not missing anything you.
David?
First of all, I'd like to hear from these gentlemen exactly what the purpose of the rain garden is in this 68 housing development.
So the rain gardens are all of our stormwater management infrastructure. Instead of normal retention and detention ponds, through a lot of discussions with the town, and I know DEP had recommended it as part of Matt's MEPA filing at 1.2 to look into low-impact development, which are these rain gardens. You know, they have all been engineered by McClure Engineering, and you know, John is doing the peer review on them, and we will obviously get Ed's concerns over to John. But they're acting as our stormwater management.
But where I'm getting confused is that typically a rain garden is on one site or one house in one location, and it returns the water directly into the subsoil. You're not putting the water back into the subsoil, you're moving the water to a different place.
Well, we're cleaning and treating the water before it can run back down towards the wetlands. So yes, there is piping infrastructure under the ground. As Pete, I think it explained at the last meeting, and it'll come up more in, you know, in John's stormwater review, is that, yes, some of these rain gardens are not infiltration basins. They're meant just to clean the water and then send it downgrade, just like it would if there was nothing being built here. Overall, I know the stormwater review does say that pre and post-construction flows on this site are almost identical. That's something that you would not get with typical pipe drainage and catch basins and retention ponds and detention ponds. I mean, everybody knows with that type of infrastructure, you're catching the road water and you're sending it to maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different areas on site. Through these rain gardens, we are treating that water, and it is making sure that we're not taking any water away from these vernal pools and impacting them adversely.
Yeah, it's basically just cutting up the drainage areas into micro watersheds that will promote natural recharge, and all the runoff hydrology is being directed where it ultimately ends up anyways. It just goes through the
Absolutely
treatment
correct.
drain.
I agree with you 150%, but there is a FUPA in this. And that minor problem is that what we recognize in Sturbridge as subsoil is called clay, and what's immediately under clay, especially on a hill like this hill, it's probably granite. Have you, in fact, taken soil samples that are below the normal 2-foot level of a rain garden?
Yeah, we have done extensive test pits up there, just under 30, at least 26 or 27. So Pete, I know, has used all of that information to design the stormwater. Again, some of these where we're in the, doing a cut on one side of the road, Pete has those rain gardens lined, and that's so groundwater cannot infiltrate in there. In that case, the water is going to permeate down through the soil that we install, and then it will get treated. It'll hit that piping structure, it'll get sent across the road, and then daylighted through the level spreaders.
Well, one of the problems that I guess I'm having with this project, from that perspective of the rain garden, is that what you're doing is something that is completely novel to us. Because you're structuring the houses very, very closely together, so closely that typical rain gardens would not work. And you're putting it on the side of a hill where the subsoil is skeptical at best. And so that's a problem that I have to get worked through from you guys.
Yeah, I
On a
mean,
second-
I
on a
guess we would
second
defer to the stormwater peer review to answer these questions. I mean, I think you can
Okay.
hear from us, you can hear from Pete, but I think the third-party review will hopefully answer a lot of questions on that front.
Okay, that would be real, I look forward to that.
Okay.
On a second issue, what the chairman just brought up relative to you providing documentation, not you, but the qualified you, providing the documentation needed to verify that the town has approved of the septic system and the potable water source that you're talking about. I'd like Becky to read part of the Wetland Protection Act notes that refer specifically to these documents being a requirement prior to the time that the Conservation Commission can actually take a vote.
I think what Dave's referring to is that in the regs, you gotta, all permits that you can get, you need to get. So I think that's what he's referring to, like if you had to go to Board of Health and get a Title V approval, you would need to get that. Same thing, I think he just wants to reiterate that, right, we need to know that they need to know that there's sewer approval.
And I know
Yeah.
Ed brought that up too, so I know we've been back and forth on that, we don't have to rehash it tonight. We'll take the feedback and we'll take that back and, you know, brainstorm on what we can do and hopefully, you know,
Satisfy us. That's-
satisfy you,
yeah.
exactly.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
Do you want to go to the public?
Sure, go to the public.
Is there anyone in the room that would like to speak on this? Okay. Is there anyone on the public line that would like to speak on the, Lot 3, 20 Fisk Hill Road, 30 Main Street, continued notice of intent? Almost there.
I thought someone was on there too.
Okay, no, I'm done.
So I didn't get to do a lot of notes in the detailed agenda because I put that out Friday morning for the board, so they have a week to look at it, so I didn't put anything on there. I'll save you my notes, I can provide them to you, a couple comments, but just a couple things, like with the open space where the drainage structure in there, most CR holders do not want that in open space, so you might want to think about not including that. I know that that's come up as issues before with people, because you have to go out there and do maintenance activities, they don't want to be involved with that. So I would recommend taking those out of there. That comes up a lot on the backs of people's lots too. I know you guys will be the primary property owner, so that might not be an issue, but just keep that in mind. You know, there is, like we saw, there's a larger crossing shown on here. I think, right, the being able to get light and moisture in there is gonna be important, so make sure that you can show that you're gonna be able to provide that and keep the stormwater out of that and make sure it gets to the systems. I think that's really important. And if you can show there's any, these have been used in other project sites, you know, Brian, that have, you know, worked, maybe they've been used for, you know, rare mole salamanders that people have to do studies on, that they're working, the amphibians are using them, that would help support the structure, I think that would be advisable. I did send this to peer review. I know we've got to talk, I think we're at the end of that with them, because we've gone through a couple things. Obviously, when we get the full plan, I'm hoping to get something back, some initial comments on this, just to give you guys too from him. Yep. But we'll have to get that plan set to him, and we'll have to talk about moving forward with that. As far as stormwater, I think it is important. I went back and looked at DEP's comments. You got to make sure you're addressing all those. Mm-hmm. And they really had a lot of questions with, you know, infiltration, and at what point does, you know, the water quality standard get bypassed with rain gardens. I think that's important because, right, these are smaller rain gardens. And if they're doing the pre-treatment, you know, what storm event, and these are things we can talk to peer review about too, but there's, you know, you get a couple of these big storms, they start bypassing. They're not doing any pre-treatment. So we want to make sure that, you know, if you had a bigger rain garden, maybe it wouldn't be as much of an issue. I don't know, just help document and show that you're gonna treat that water, which is important, and, you know, not increase that runoff too. And I know when Pete talked last time, there were some rain gardens, and they're mostly in the area of where the crossing is, which they're gone now, like in this area that didn't provide that infiltration. And there's a lot that go over here. Like I know the top side, the cut side doesn't provide infiltration, right? But they do, there's infiltration provided down here, right? Are there ones here that don't provide infiltration, that just end up at a level spreader? Can they get put into something over here maybe? You know, little things like that. If they provide treatment and infiltration, that's better. We want to try to get it in the ground and not just put it out in a pipe, you know, and then it ends up channelizing into the wetland. You know, not saying that it will, it's got some distance to go, but the more you can do those little things, I think that helps support that. I think that's important, but really you got to address those DEP comments. Not sure we talked about snow storage areas before, but I know that you've got roadway and then sidewalk. Usually when you're plowing, you get those berms along the road between the sidewalk. Where's snow storage going? Because that's going to be important with how, you know, we want to make sure that's getting that stormwater gets treated. It's going to have salt in it, et cetera. I think, you know, winter, you know, the salt, we talked about the rain gardens, you can have salt tolerant plants. I'm not aware of, maybe you know, I don't think there's any plants that treat for salt. So are there alternatives to that? Like, that's, you know, think about some ways to show that we're not going to affect and change the salinity levels of the vernal pools, which will have an impact on those populations, right? And I think there's alternatives out there. Maybe there's something that, you know, you can look at. Those are the biggest things. Just one question, I guess, is that in the table, and I had a couple questions, and thank you for clarifying, but like this area up here in the vernal pool buffer is shown as like 11,000 square feet. The same as over here, but this one, which the vernal pool buffer comes way up in here, that's why I wanted to see the line. Looks like it has a lot more, and it's only shown at 19,000 square feet. So it just seems like there's more impact here than on that table, and that's where I was kind of wrestling with that. And I might be wrong because, you know, you've got slope impacts and things like that here too. But it just seems like this buffer, I really wanted to see it because the vernal pool buffer comes way up and clips this road over here.
It actually, where it runs, like you were saying, I think it's this line right here. So these two lots are still somewhat impacted. Comes right along the roadway, comes through this, and then it actually just hits the very back corner of this lot, and then it follows down in here. So this lot right here, I don't think there's any impact even with grading in the 200 foot
Okay,
now.
so it's hard to see the line on there, and right, if you're not doing all that grading, then maybe it keeps that number down. But it was just hard. I'm like, how is that much? It didn't seem right, but maybe because they're not grading or anything there.
Yeah,
So.
as we pulled all the three homes here on the west side,
Yeah.
is we did away with the retaining walls and pulled those. We're actually able to pull them a little bit closer to the road, no more closer than any of the other homes are. So it'll all still look very nice. It actually reduced the grading in the back, where on the original plan, on the back of those lots and in the two that we've given up, we had fills of 8 to 10 feet in some areas. Biggest area of fill now in these section right here, I think, is right here. And it's 6 feet, and it goes down to almost nothing back here, and then maybe to 4 feet right there. So, yeah, we have reduced those cuts and fills in that area too.
Good. All right, I want to cut this off.
Fine,
Vicky.
yeah, I just wanted to provide a few things.
Not that we're not enjoying it, but, you know, we're going to be here a while.
Yep.
You know, thank you very much for coming in.
I just had two more quick questions.
Go ahead.
I know Steve's not here again tonight. Is he still on the board? Will we get feedback from him as well? Because I know he missed the last meeting too.
I don't know. I can't answer the question.
Okay.
I've got, it isn't to do with you. He's got some family issues.
Okay, all right. And then second question, going back to Becky, some of your comments with DEP and stormwater. It sounds like now we're at a point where the changes that we have made in a general level with the reduction of lots and the regrading, the board agrees with this, where now we can take this and we can finalize all that stormwater, go back and answer all DEP's comments. We were kind of waiting to get, I guess, to this point with the commission to make sure that we're all on the same level as far as what we have done to try to protect the habitat here. So from the feedback tonight, I think I've gathered that.
Well, there's definitely, you've definitely done some work, there's no question about that, positive work.
Okay.
You know, I don't know that we're, you know, on the same boat yet, but.
We can at least take the next step now with what we
I'm not
have
trying
to.
to mislead you. That's the reason I gave you, I went through these things, because I didn't want you to walk out thinking that
I
everything
appreciate
was
that.
Shangri-La.
Yeah, no, I think it just enables us to finalize all the stormwater info for the peer review and then answer all your questions on that front.
So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Continuation.
The next one?
Or do you need more time?
Well, so are we gonna get a peer review report from Oxbow?
Well, I don't know. I think we've expended the funds to date, so we gotta figure that out with them. I spoke to him yesterday, and he was out in the field. He had some time off. He got the materials. He was gonna try to look at it and at least provide some initial comment today. I didn't get anything. So I'm hoping we do get some initial comment on this that we can provide over and provide to the board too, so.
Yeah, maybe we continue to the 15th, and we may or may punt on that. We're not gonna have all the stormwater answers at that point in time, but
When's the one after the 15th?
October.
the 6th, I think.
Over
I think.
5th or
It should
6th.
be
I think it's,
3 weeks after that.
I think it's the 5th.
I can look at my phone.
Yeah, I think that would probably be a more reasonable
Probably,
date to
yeah.
be able to get our definitive plans done, get it in John Shevlin's hand, get your concerns
Yeah, it's gonna-
answered, work through the sewer and water concerns.
If you want to come in for a session, the next one, not complete, but just to argue some
Yeah.
more points, that's also.
Yeah,
a way
that's
to
that's
go.
fine, we can at least provide an update.
We'll miss you if we don't see you in a month's time.
Ditto.
It's the 9 o'clock.
No, you know what I'm
Thursday
saying.
tradition.
All right, so we'll continue this
Axe
September
next time,
15th.
yeah.
It'll be
Coverages.
football season by then. It's Thursday
Yeah, we'll
night
have to check the
football.
schedule, so. But no, thank you all for all the
appreciate
comments,
it.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Do we need to vote on that, Joe?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Continuation to the 15th?
Yeah, Eric Gaspar in favor.
I'll second that.
Okay. No,
You were in favor.
yeah. Ed Gooder in favor, David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
care.
you, gents.
See you in a couple weeks.
All right, now we are at,
Well, I just want
Finish
to,
the public hearings, everyone.
see, there's a Tracy on here. Tracy, is there something in particular on the agenda that you're on here for? You're on mute, if, so you know.
Wasn't she part of the
There was,
the mass
Here for the COC?
the pipe thing?
well,
We already
there was a couple people, I forget all the.
Sorry, yes, I'm here.
Oh,
Oh, thanks, Tracy. What are you here for? Which item?
I'm here actually because our Boston team saw that we were on the agenda further down under old business. So I just wanted to see, I'm new to District 3 as the environmental engineer, sorry, as of January. So I'm not really familiar with this site, but I do plan on going out there tomorrow morning around 9 o'clock, and we're going to meet the design engineer that designed the work. And from what I understand, the work has been completed, so he needs to do an as-built and submit it to you.
Great, yes, that's what we're looking for. Yeah, we had sent some email correspondence out. Right, looking for, right, as-built, letter of substantial compliance, typically what we would get with a certificate of compliance for the project.
Sure.
But since this was done under enforcement order, so right, that's what the commission was looking for. In addition, you know, we're looking for BSC or even DOT can put that together, some recommendations on the O&M activities that DOT should be doing out there for those maintenance activities. And the commission had discussed it, like, just because there's been so many issues out here, just a commitment from DOT to go out for a couple years at least and just do some monitoring and just report back on what they're seeing out there. We did have a representative from the Cedar Lake Association out here earlier. He did go out to the site today. One thing I think you guys should really look at is the top of the biggest swale out there. Once you get out there, you'll know. Peter knows which one it is. Way up on top. They did some resurfacing. He noted there was a lot of material at the first 100 feet of the riprap swale, millings that got in there and a lot of other material. that kind of washed down. You guys might want to take a look at that. I don't know
Okay,
if-
so maybe a maintenance issue.
Yeah, there's a lot going on above that, but it looks like if the millings came in when they were doing that milling work, like, that's probably something that should come out of there too. So. but
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for staying on for that, and, right, if you can just let us know after
Should have
your,
interrupted, Tracy.
huh?
You should have
I
interrupted.
asked her.
What?
I asked her, you make her sit on here
Oh,
till
did you?
the end,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But, yeah, if you can let us know
Not
how
a
that,
problem at all.
how that site visit goes after you go out there, if we
Yeah.
can get some, some email correspondence, that'd be appreciated.
Okay, sure. So I will follow up with an email to you and maybe some pictures included also.
Great.
And then again, I know we do have, maintenance obviously needs to be aware of these areas and check on them and maintain them. And we are trying as a district, we're coming up with more scheduled maintenance of like our structures, our pipes, for cleaning and that type of thing. Because again, as we know, we're getting into more severe weather events, and we anticipate that things aren't going to get better, they're going to get worse, so.
Great, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Uplifting comment.
Sorry about that.
Where are we, Becky?
All right, thank you, Tracy. Have a good night.
You too, bye.
Okay, 15, which is 70 Westwood Drive, request to extend in orders of conditions, 300-1035. So this is on Westwood Drive. It was a single-family house development he did some lakeshore improvements out there, if you remember that. He did start the work on the lakeshore. They weren't sure, COVID hit with everything going on and costs of building material going up. They've kind of put the house on hold. They would like to get an extension for 3 years on that. I don't see any concerns with that and would recommend giving them the extension on that.
All right. All in favor of a 3-year extension?
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor? Okay.
Okay, we've got number 16 on here, 47 Breakneck Road. This is another request for a certificate of compliance, 300-1130. Very recent one. It's nice to
Yep.
see it closed. Real estate transactions help make that happen.
Yeah, it made the septic, it made the whole thing happen.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yep. So I went out
That was
there.
great.
We've got everything we need from the engineer, letter of substantial compliance, as-built. Everything is stabilized out there. No concerns. Recommend issuance of a complete certificate with the perpetual conditions in the order, special conditions 44 through 47.
Eric, gonna make that motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a COC for DEP file 300-1130 with the agent's notes about the perpetual conditions under the Sturbridge bylaws.
And I second that.
Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, David?
David Barnacle in favor.
Excellent.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
All right, we're on to 10 Willard Road.
Another request for certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-942. This site, they had an order of condition. They did most of the site work. It expired. They filed an RDA to finish that site work, change the landscaping a little bit out there. It was reviewed and approved by the commission. The request came in. We have all the supporting documentation. Site is stable. Recommend issuance of a COC with perpetual conditions, special conditions 1920, Sturbridge special conditions 8 and 11.
Okay, do they have the pipe under the road, under the driveway?
Yes, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Make a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for DEP file 300-0942 with the agent's notations for the perpetual conditions.
yep, Roy,
I second that.
any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. We're on One Hare Road, George Vinton Road. Request for a certificate of compliance for 300-1035 10:07.
All right, this is for the solar field.
Yep.
Over by Walmart. So this actually, you, this is probably before your time. Yeah. This actually had an older DEP file number. They did, I'll do a quick summary. They got the solar panels in, they had to put the crossing structures in. The order expired, they didn't get the crossing structures in. A new property owner, they filed a new notice of intent to put the crossing structures in. So we've got 2 crossing structures out there, a restored crossing area, if I can say all that, tongue-tied here. And then they'd also asked for some additional tree trimming, cutting out there, because they weren't getting the amount of solar they need, et cetera. So we worked through a new order of conditions for them. There was a couple issues out there where they cut a little more than they were supposed to. We worked through that. They did replanting. They had replanting requirements out here. They had monitoring requirements for the replanting, and they had monitoring requirements for the crossing structures that they put in the restored one out there. So they've met all those requirements. Everything is okay out there. I've been out there more times than most sites. And we had an external person doing the monitoring and reporting out there for us.
All right, that's enough. Motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for
What, Becky?
DEP file. Oh,
With perpetual conditions, please.
yeah, 300-1007 with the perpetual conditions outlined by the agent in the detailed agenda.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
One piece of discussion. Becky says they cut a few more trees than they were supposed to. That is one of the greatest understatements I've heard all night. Because
I know.
when they cut those trees, they
The only-
cut a wonderful
The only
bit.
plan that they walked out the door and did something else.
No,
Yeah.
people don't do that.
All right, so we're at
The irony of
42 Draper Woods.
I think we need to vote on it.
Oh, do we?
We motioned and second, but we haven't voted on it.
Yes,
All right,
We need
all
to
in
vote
favor?
on it.
David?
David Barnacle's in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. Now we're on to 42 Draper Woods, request for a certificate of compliance, DEP file number 300-0469.
Whoa. 469.
Yeah,
Old.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I just had someone call today about a 200 number, so coming out of the woodwork here. All right, so this is a partial, it was Draper Woods subdivision. Right, we've received everything we needed for this. Actually, this one I wrote is in buffer zone. It actually wasn't in buffer zone. It was the one across the road, so it wasn't even in the buffer zone, so I thought it was 43, it's 42.
yep.
So I recommend a partial COC releasing 42 Draper Woods from the orders of conditions.
Motion that we issue a partial certificate of compliance for DEP file 300-0469 at 42 Draper Woods.
I second that.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor?
Ed Goodwin in favor. Swiaki, Eric?
Huh?
Swiaki was a Detroit, he played, I think he went to Amherst College and he played for the Detroit Lions.
Oh, really?
Football, came back, was a big real estate agent in the area, up over Fisk Hill, all those houses and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Oh, wow.
He was really involved. And then his son, this is his son, Swiakin's son, came in and got into the business with the land, but
Huh.
he's gone. I don't know where he went. He's a friend of David's.
He's a friend of David's.
51 Technology Park Road, we did it already.
All right, 132 Lane 9. This is emergency authorization request that needs to be ratified. It was issued, this was the end of July. And we're
Eric.
out of town. Eric,
Eric's been going at it. Did you take the dog with you and went out there,
We
Eric?
did. Yeah. Carly went.
yeah, so
All right.
this just needs to be ratified. It's a steep bank. They're getting a lot of erosion, sediment washout into resource areas. It was issued, they haven't started yet, they have to, submit an after-the-fact notice of intent within 30 days.
We have a notice to ratify.
Yes, motion to ratify the emergency authorization request for 132 Lane 9.
Second that?
Roy? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Goodwin in favor. Administrative decisions. Minutes we did, right?
Yep.
And old business did.
We have a couple of pieces of old business we should check on. Becky, have you heard from Dr. Stages?
What's he saying?
Dr. Stages.
Yes, I did email him, and what did we say at the meeting? Right, that we just wanted to be able to come out and take a look at them. He did reply and said that you should be able to see them from the road. And that oh wait, we said that before. He's not at this time moving forward with the other requests. He will monitor those trees and come back to us if he wants to remove them. So.
Well, wait a minute. Did this committee not give him 2 months to do the planting from 2016?
Yes, and he said that he provided some photos saying that he did put some plantings in. Yeah, they looked like ornamental. Couldn't tell 100% from the pictures, but they, were smaller trees. And we just said, oh, we'd like to come out and take a look at that. And he said that we should be able to see him from the road. So that's where that got left.
So, because I'm the least educated one on this board, I drove out and I didn't know what I was looking at or looking for. So I respectfully disagree with that communication that came back. So I figured I would not waste everybody else's time if I couldn't figure it out on my own, because it sounded as if it was going to be pretty simple and straightforward. I disagree.
I can take you on a boat ride.
Yeah, that might be easier.
Where are we here now?
So
We
what's
going
the
on
next
to
step?
administrative updates?
Oh, Dave asked another.
Wait a minute, Ed, what's the next step with Dr. Stages?
Don't know, right?
Put a file in the cabinet.
I think we're really busy. I don't think we ought to perform another step with Mr. Stages until next meeting, maybe we'll talk about it.
Yeah, but you remember that he did apply to plant more trees.
I can't understand what
Oh, he removed the permit, or right?
Yeah, he's not asking to remove more trees right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Committee updates, CPA, nothing. Trails, David?
I'm not on it. There is no representative for Trails as yet.
Yeah, okay.
We are going on a site visit, or at least I
Yeah,
am,
we're gonna-
on
lead
the
mine, right?
31st
Yeah.
for lead mine.
Yeah.
And
Open
lakes,
space?
Open space, that's right.
They had a meeting today. Space, they didn't do anything.
Yeah. Lakes had a meeting. I missed it. It's on. Everything's on Thursdays, so my schedule's a little tight. But there was the meeting that Gene set up that I was trying to make about the floodplain.
Yes, yep.
What were you able to what was that all about? Is that something that we
FEMA's-
need to pay attention to?
No, not really. So FEMA's updating their firm maps. So different areas in town will change, and it does affect personal property, structures, lakefront, rivers, swamps, and areas in town. So she was sending information out to people, making them aware that these changes were coming in. And then she did invite, instead of trying to send a letter to everybody in the lake that was going to be affected, invite Slack so that way people could convey the information to them, let them know where they can find the information to look at what the changes coming out are going to be, because it will affect their insurance.
Okay, so
Yeah.
but it has nothing to do with us, really. Okay.
If you want a lakefront property, you might have to pay flood insurance.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is if, the zone A and AE are designated, that's borderland subject to flooding for us, those could change, but we will get that information, and that's part of people will have to look at when they file with us, but, it's really more for people's personal, private property.
Okay, thank you.
And
All right,
have we
new
heard
business.
anything about the report from the lakes testing that took place last weekend?
No, we don't have any reporting yet. I don't think he's gotten the results back from Microbac yet, so.
All right, we're gonna go to number 24 here.
Okay, so we
Special
have,
use permit application.
so we have a request from Rotary to use a portion of the Lead Mine Mountain Conservation Area for their, 5K event. They did do it last year.
Yeah.
The main event is mostly located on OSV. They're just gonna go onto our property through the parking lot on the road and do the Arbutus Park Trail, which is the wide one that goes around the stream where the lakes used to be, and come back down and out. They expect about 150 people. They had 122 last year. I did forward it over to Fish and Wildlife if they had any comment. I haven't received anything back yet on that. I would say that if, I'd add a few conditions on it, like they're gonna be on that road, we don't have to worry about police or anything like that. I would just recommend that, that they have to make sure that all trash is removed, and that the trail conditions be reviewed, preferably by a member of the Trails Committee, if that's okay with somebody, just to
Yeah.
make sure if there's any impacts, they can make sure they repair them if needed. I wouldn't anticipate that being an issue based off of that trail unless it was like during a monsoon or something, you know what I mean? But just add that in there for that safety net.
I agree.
They could do us a favor and get rid of the dog droppings that people tend to leave all
Yeah.
over that trail. I can't believe, when Carly and I go out there, she's
Oh, it's
like
really-
always
It's crazy.
every 5 feet, there's
Yeah.
another one she's sniffing. It's crazy.
So we just ordered the dog waste stations that we're putting up.
Good.
Yeah, when
Wow.
yeah.
And people will fill the bags and leave the bags on the side of the road. Bunches.
Yeah,
All right.
well, we gotta get
Be
animal
responsible.
control out there more, I think,
Yeah.
let her know, we can let her know,
The dogs are so nice to people,
Make a motion to approve the special use permit application for
Yes.
the Rotary Lead Mine Mountain Conservation Area.
Second?
Yep, I second that.
David? Any discussion? All in favor?
David Barnacle in favor.
Eric Gaspar in favor.
Roy Bishop in favor.
Ed Gooder in favor. And then we have Lad Road cutting plan?
So we received a copy of a DCR approved forest cutting plan at 18 Lad Road. I can pull up the map if you want. They are going in front of the Board of Selectmen on September 6th, I believe. So we'd like to get a memo over to them on that. He was the forester here who developed the plan. He's been managing this property for a long time. This is the Jablonski parcel that's adjacent to Charlton on Lad Road. They're only doing a few sections within Sturbridge. It's also occurring in Charlton. They do have more land in Sturbridge that they're not cutting at this time. They're using existing skid roads. All the stream crossings are in Charlton. Access will be on Lad Road. They do have to go through a filter strip to remain using the existing skid roads, which DCR is okay with, and I think that's fine because they're existing out there. He is working with DPW. He did speak to DPW and working with them about any road concerns. There is McKinstry Brook with the culvert over there, and there's that culvert on Bond Sawmill Road. That's on private property, but it could benefit maybe from some metal plates over it or something. I don't know. There was been question before about the integrity of those culverts, like what they could handle. But something like a metal plate or something, if necessary, could be added as a BMP or something like that. Otherwise, I don't see any concerns with it. This is a property that's been long managed as forestry.
When I read
and a
about
very,
it, when you
very
sent
reputable
that
forester,
out, I
so.
feel we should just go ahead and let them go.
Yep.
Eric, you agree with that?
Yep, make a motion to approve the forest cutting plan
Yeah.
at 18
Second
Lad
that.
Road.
Yeah, okay.
More like a motion to
Recommend
Recommend Board of Selectmen
approval.
approve the.
Those were the words I meant to say.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, too.
Yeah.
Roy.
I second that, yeah.
All right,
Second Eric and yours.
all in favor?
Eric Gaspar in favor?
Brian Bishop in
David
favor?
Barnacle in
Goodwin in
favor.
favor, Dave Barnacle. Agents report.
Quick, yes, where it's in here somewhere.
Yeah, you were talking a lot tonight. I don't think we did allow you to do a report.
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
How about the minutes?
I'm not trying to hurt your feelings.
Oh, they did the minutes already, Dave.
We did the minutes. Yeah,
Yeah, we did.
we did it early, Dave.
Oh,
Not a problem.
Seemed like it was yesterday, because it probably was.
All right, so Beck, what do you got for an agent's report, anything?
Just quick, Grand Trunk Trail should be wrapping up soon. They still have a few things to do along the road, but most of the trail work is done at this point in time. It's not open yet, but that's
Yeah.
good. Long Pond, we had the question, some disputes still about the northern property line.
Yep.
Internally within the town, we've been discussing this, and we put a request for quotes out. Because the town never did a surveyed plan for that whole property, that's what we're asking for, with extra emphasis on researching that northern property boundary. So we put some requests out for that. That should be coming back in a couple weeks, hopefully, so we can get that finally resolved out there and get a definitive answer on that.
Robin on board with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So we will have to figure out funding mechanisms for that when we get a cost estimates back. Eric and I went out to 508 International a couple weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago. Walked the site with DEP. I'd like to follow up with DEP. From what we saw, they're not using the areas in Sturbridge. We didn't walk the whole second parcel in Sturbridge, but I've been out there many times, and those areas are growing back in. The forested areas where they had the wetland impacts are growing back in. I'd like to talk to DEP and what her feedback is. Some of that looks better. There's vegetation regrowing, but there's some, ruts and stuff still in the wetlands. I'd like to get her feedback and see what she thinks about maybe, some improvements that should be made to them. So I need to do that. So I'll come back to you with some
I
information.
bet she's
on
not
that.
gonna not gonna get back to you unless you get back to her.
No, I know. I gotta contact her. I just haven't had.
But going out, I think it was really important for you guys to go out.
And it,
Happy to be out there.
yeah, it was great. I got requested to leave Charlton, and that's okay. They weren't expecting me to be there. What Russ was talking about on site, about, part of the disturbance being under a forestry plan and existing, anything we can do to get a rough calculation of how much of that is truth and how much of that is fiction versus what was laid out. Trying to figure out how to escalate that appropriately would be
For impact calculations?
for impact calculations. Because, listen, I don't know enough about that, and if it doesn't count in my own, I am working off of a wrong set of variables, I would like to know that, but I don't know whether or not there's any truth to what is being said, and
Right, if he had permits for things that don't show up on aerial photos, but he had approval, you know what I mean? I think it gets a little complicated not knowing the whole history, looking into that, but I think that some rough estimating can be done.
well, and can we push that back on DEP to do that for us? And do I need to call either Representative Smola or Senator Fatman to request that DEP does that legwork for us, because we are realistically at this point talking about mostly Charlton impact. There are still things that we could hang our hat in Sturbridge, obviously the rutting and what you talked about, but if you think that we're unable to get the calculations and then we need to weigh in on DEP, I don't mind calling our representatives to see if we can.
I think DEP will probably I don't know, that they're gonna say that their blinders are up for wetlands, right? For wetland impacts or whatnot. And then maybe question why we're wondering about Charlton. I think we can,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, and if I need to take off my Sturbridge resident hat and my Conservation Commissioner hat and put that off to the side and run as a taxpayer of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, I don't have a problem with that. I just don't know what is the best way to go. So I'll leave it at that, but.
Well, the first thing I'd find out is if she gets any feedback or she
Right.
can get any feedback.
Right,
And
exactly.
then we go from there. But what you did, that, you went in his face.
Yeah.
And by going in his face, he's not gonna risk money. So he'll stay further away, generally speaking. And I mean, he might just ignore me completely, or us completely.
I mean, the good news
He knows
is,
we're looking at it.
I don't, as far as I could tell, the last time I was on that segment of the property was when Amber brought you and I out there.
Yeah.
And that was last year. And there didn't seem to be any fresh activity out there at all. And if it was very limited, and it didn't really cause anything additional that like really jumped out at me. It seemed to be all old stuff. So that's good.
Yeah.
Right? So is there any activity in Sturbridge? No. Are there still areas that could be repaired? Absolutely. You know, but the question is, you know,
That's not worth our time.
is it worth our time?
Yeah.
Right? And is the remedy worse than just leaving it there because they may have to truck stuff in there or whatever to really,
Yeah, that's all.
you know, but that's neither here nor there. I'd like to see her, you know, recommendations or report, her notes, and then see what we can do from there.
All right, is that it?
Yeah, no, I just got a couple other things. So there's a couple properties in town, one being 100 Breakneck Road, where I've gone out, I've issued like verbal cease and desist and followed up with letters. That property, we had that kind of happen out there before where they did some clearing work. It looks like they did some clearing in our jurisdiction. Told him to stop work. He said he's working on a engineered plan. I said I would like to see the limit of clearing that they just created put on there so we can get a full understanding of what work occurred in jurisdiction. I've been following up and been told that they're waiting on the plan. I don't know if they have an engineer even doing anything. I'd like to not escalate, but in a sense, have him come in front of the commission and at the next meeting and explain where things stand. Moving forward, there's been no formal enforcement action taken, obviously. I just want to make sure that I don't get the runaround. I feel like I get the runaround with people a lot, and it delays things out a little bit. I'd like to send a letter and have him come to the commission.
Is that
to give
gate
it
new?
what?
The gate looked like there was a gate on the property closest to the landfill or the recycling center.
I think so. Yeah, there hasn't been a gate there, and there's been some kind of reporting coming in about
It's not real, no.
that whole area about
Wow. It is new.
ATV.
Like 2 or 3 years.
usage.
Yeah, like not like just like someone riding their dirt bike on their property, but bringing people in and doing stuff. So zoning's been asked to look into that too at the end there. Not sure if that extends through the whole property or whatnot. We've got a perennial stream through there, etc. But I'd like to ask them to come in and give you an update where things stand because I just don't want it to keep delaying on month after month. And that would be 2 months once they come to the meeting. So I'd like to do that. There's a property on Glen Ridge Road. In the spring, got a report, some clearing that occurred out there. I went out there, they stopped, talked about just submitting, you know, it wasn't too bad, a restoration plan, just getting something in writing from them saying that they're, you know, understand what the limit of the yard is and they're not going to go any further. Probably was all old yard at one point and they cut some daylilies, but it's probably BVW. So everything I've gone by there, they're not doing anything, but I've sent 2 letters now just asking for a restoration plan if needed, you know, what we talked about, and a commitment that they understand what the line is. I just want something in writing from them. I still just don't understand why people haven't done it, but they haven't submitted anything back in writing. I feel like I need to tell them they need to come to the meeting too, just so there's something in record about that they understand they're not going to work in area, or maybe they'll give me something in writing prior to that meeting. So I just not getting trying to deal with these things, and people aren't, you know, without taking any formal action here, it's just not working very well, so. 241 Main Street, which is the Sturbridge Service Center up here, I think it's called, or whatever. There's a tenant in there, put up a fence. We made him aware that he had to get a permit to put up a fence. Supposed to get one through building 2. I'm not
Took it
sure
down,
if they said they were gonna take it down. It has not come down. They said they were moving out of there. If they stay, they'll file for it. The property owner understands about it. He didn't know they were putting up the fence. He's been corresponding with them. I'm not getting anywhere with these people either, so.
Does Craig Moran still own it? Carol called him by mistake today. She just was dialing somebody and missed the dial, and she hung up, but Craig called her back and had a laugh over it.
So, you know, the tenant isn't doing anything about it. It's a simple fence. Doesn't look like, I haven't walked down there. Doesn't look like they've gone beyond the developed area. You just need a permit for it. So I'm not
I'd
sure
like
what
to
the
get those
issue is.
Jersey barriers out of there that they said they were using for driving instruction,
Okay,
because they just put them down there. That's filled within the wetland.
yeah. All right, I will like to ask them to come in then.
What?
Not
Well,
that I
let me
want
look
to
and
add
see if
on
they're
to our
there
meeting
tomorrow
agenda,
morning.
but I feel like, you know,
Yeah.
all I got.
All right.
One
I
question.
think Roy's got to take us home.
Dave has a
I have
question.
one question for Becky before she leaves. Becky, when do we anticipate getting the CR report from Opakam?
They're monitoring? They usually do their monitoring in the spring or the fall, so I can follow up with them. They sent some, when you asked
the
before,
reason
they
I'm-
sent some, but they were not recent.
No, the reason that I'm curious is because we gave them or paid them $10,000 for each one of the properties that have a CR on them. And I think we should hold them to task to make sure that they're providing us what we need. Because some parts of the comments that you made relative to the trails meeting that we had 3 weeks ago indicated that what we needed to have was a pro who would come in and make sure that we were holding true to the CR's requirements. And in fact, that's one of the things that Opakam is supposed to be looking for.
Yeah. I can follow up with them.
Yeah. All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Yep.
Good night, Dave.
Night, David.
Good night, people.